It is indeed your boy Tim, the handsome liberal. Welcome to the program this July 3rd, 2024, the year of our Lord. So, what I want to ask you folks is freedom on the table? That's what we talk about every Independence Day. You'll see it on t shirts, you'll see it on everything from napkins to celebrations utilizing fireworks. The word freedom will be written all over this country tomorrow, Independence Day, the day we celebrate our independence as a sovereign nation. But what I want to ask you folks is come November, because for us folks who consider ourselves to be somewhat politically involved, politically savvy, everybody's thinking about November. Everybody is concerned with what is going to happen in November. So the first question, the first topic we're going to dig right into, as you see the video is titled, Do You Believe Freedom is on the Table? Do you believe as an American citizen that's been celebrating freedom in quotes, I'm going to put it in air quotes because that is something we can debate as well, but do you believe as an American celebrating freedom all your life, every Independence Day, that it is now on the table and at risk depending on what happens in November? Now, this could be if Biden gets reelected or if Trump gets reelected. Right now, those are your two candidates, and we're going to talk about that as part of the second topic. But what I want to ask you folks is, in regards to is freedom at risk, who do you believe is posing a great threat to it? Maybe you feel Biden is threatening your freedom, so you want to reelect Trump, or vice versa. So we're going to be asking you what freedoms you believe are at risk and which candidate would be the best choice to prevent that from potentially happening. Now, also in addition to mentioning or discussing the possibility of freedoms being at risk, I also want to talk to you folks in regards to what is going on all over the media. We're not talking just right-wing media. We're not talking just left-wing media. Fact is, as someone who's been watching and listening to all of the media outlets throughout the day, it's become clear that the Biden campaign realizes they have a problem up to and including President Biden. President Biden now, according to many liberals, is acknowledging he has a problem. He is acknowledging that if it is in the best interest of the country, he may be open to stepping down. Now, before we get into the program, unfortunately, I don't know what just happened on TikTok, but we'll start getting into the program. But if you folks on TikTok, YouTube, you'll see no difference. But for you folks on YouTube, I'm going to ask you to hang on about 20 seconds. I am going to restart the live. Something happened. It kicked in a number, so I will restart it and come right back. So for you YouTubers, that's what we're asking as well. And I appreciate you folks on YouTube tuning in already. Is freedom on the ballot? Now, I see in the comments, Ashes Kumar says Biden versus Trump. It may not be that way, Ashes. It may not be that way. That may not be what is going to happen. We're going to talk about that as part of the second topic. There's a potential that Biden may step down. And that's what we're going to be asking in regards to Biden versus Trump. Is it possible? Do you believe that Biden won't ultimately be the Democratic choice in about 3 months or so? What is the likelihood that Biden will actually step down and decide for the best, for the good of the country, he's not going to pursue a second term? Love to hear your points on that. Love to hear your take on that. Like I stated, before I go to the box, I have been tuned into, I generally listen to a lot of Fox and CNN. Very little MSNBC. But because the issue with Biden's campaign openly admitting that they have some problems, I decided to tune in to MSNBC today, which is a network that normally defends liberals and liberal causes, and Biden included, and see what was being discussed on MSNBC. and they sound just like the other two networks. Biden has a problem, and the Democratic powers that be are behind the scenes addressing Biden, and it's looking more and more like Biden may end up stepping down. So it's even MSNBC is sounding like CNN and a little bit like Fox now. They all are openly admitting the path for Biden going forward is getting increasingly difficult as more and more folks, particularly some Democrats, are now becoming outspoken and saying he needs to step down. When I say Democrats, I mean Democratic politicians in Washington. So look at it in the comments, ask right off the bat, why don't Trump step down for the good of the country? Many have asked that. Many have indeed asked, why don't Trump step down for the good of the country? However, Trump's party, Trump supporters don't feel like he needs to. So it's a difference. The people asking Trump to step down are folks who do not support Trump. The people asking Biden to step down are many folks who did vote for him and just simply believes he's not mentally capable of continuing forward. Most of the folks asking Trump to step down are not Republicans. That doesn't apply with Biden. There's a hell of a lot of Democrats suggesting Biden step down. In my humble opinion, I don't think Trump and a lot of MAGA want Biden to step down. I think they see him as someone that can be defeated. So you know how the program is ran. It is MAGA friendly, always has been, always will be. You don't have to agree with anybody in the comment section, including the host. We're all about free speech here. So going to the comments, Deborah says you must be happy. Did not elaborate on anything in regards to that. I'm happy I got a holiday off tomorrow. So, yeah, I'm happy about that. Going to the box. Should, or not should, but better yet, will Biden be one of our candidates on the ballot in November? Started right off with the one and only Moo, the tuxedo cat. Good afternoon, Moo. Is it?
Hey man, can you say that one more time? That Biden is now admitting that he has a problem.
No.
And that his team is admitting. Oh no.
Yeah, well, let me say that again.
Yeah, clarify a little bit.
Yeah, let me clarify that.
Yeah, clarify a little bit.
All over the left-wing media, CNN, which you can call CNN where you want, but there is speculation that Biden's team. There you go. Speculation that Biden's team, because right now there's a press conference going on and they're denying it. But all over the media, folks who have inside sources are claiming that they are saying this and not coming out with it.
Okay. So we can wait a little bit to say Moo was right again. So we'll wait a little bit on that, but it's coming, right? Because the truth always comes out, right? The truth always comes out. And I want to make a point real quick.
What is the truth? Before you make the point, give me your...
The truth?
Yeah.
The truth, yeah. The truth is that Biden has cognitive issues and that not just one debate, that for months, progressives and prominent Democrats have been begging Biden to step down for the good of the country. And that's the truth. It's not one debate. That's gaslighting. When you hear that point made, that's Blue Maga talking to you right there. It's not just one debate.
I finally heard
telling Biden that he's needed to step down for months.
Well, I will be the first to concede the point because you have been saying that, and based on what I'm seeing now that I may have not saw in the past, I do believe you're right. I do believe that they were saying it because they're saying now that he's having.
Hey, listen.
I'm listening.
Yeah. So, guys, I want you to understand something here. I don't do political lives, guys. So, not you, handsome liberal, but other people on here have a vested interest in gaslighting you. They make money from you. They want your follows. I don't need your follows. Political live follows are less than 1% of my followers. My followers come from the cat videos I make. So when you're on here listening to these people gaslight you, remember that there's one guy on here who has no vested interest in bullshitting you, and that's me.
Okay. I don't totally agree that everybody who's following the program is making money from it, but I get what you're saying because I'm not making a lot from it my damn self. But I will say this. I do now agree.
About you. You're very impartial.
Thank you.
Yeah.
I do agree with you based on what I'm seeing and based on what I'm hearing now, that, as you stated, they have been worried about Biden for quite some time and has been lying about it. Because now that it's so obvious to everybody, they're coming forward and admitting it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, so again, I will still vote for Biden. I know that's not good enough for you, Blue MAGA. I have to be loyal. I heard them talking about, you need to be loyal. You need to be loyal.
Yeah.
You know who says that shit? MAGA says that shit. So y'all say the same fucking things MAGA does. Anytime someone has a critique of your party and tells you the truth, you become Blue MAGA.
I heard
That's
that.
what you are.
Up until now, because I found it to be humorous, you were the first person I heard saying Blue MAGA, but yesterday I happened to watch some progressive media, the Young Turks. Sink is the one. I heard him say Blue MAGA. I could not stop laughing. I'm like, is this where Moo is getting this from? I heard him say Blue MAGA.
And what you should be watching is the Young Turks, because they are completely crowd-funded. They get no corporate donations, and they are right more times than not. And when they make a mistake, unlike other media news outlets, they correct it. Okay, all of the polling data at this point shows that not only are you guys losing in the battleground states, you're about to lose Democratic strongholds. You're about to lose places like New Mexico. That's never happened before. And yet, still, head is up ass, and will not even concede for a second that Biden might not be the right guy for the job. That's Blue MAGA. Loyalty to a man, can't look at the problems that's going on, gives you gaslighting. And this is why I challenge any Blue MAGA, Zeus, all of you. I challenge any of you to a debate, and you won't take me up on it. I'll debate you on whether Biden is the best candidate or not. And you know why you won't take me up on this offer? Because you're all full of shit. Anytime you encounter someone who's not MAGA, who has facts to back it up, who can point out how corrupt you actually are, because your party takes a shit ton of corporate donations, just like the Republicans do. And the minute you are able to call either of these parties out on their bullshit, they fold like a fucking piece of clothing.
Well, you already know, you talk to me fairly frequently. You know I'm not hesitant to bring you on anytime.
That's why I'm not talking about you.
All right.
That's
But one of the things I guess I would push back with, because you mentioned yesterday when we spoke that they need a progressive candidate. You mentioned the likes of AOC and a few others. Sink ran for president. He did horrible. He ran for president, did he not?
He didn't. So again, you're assuming that there was a fair primary. Are you going to sit here and tell me that the Democrats didn't silence their own primary over almost any state? They held primaries in 4 fucking states, dude. You're going to tell me that's democracy right there? So the party that preaches about democracy did everything they could to stop the primary candidates from being able to voice themselves and to compete against Joe Biden. And you know why they did that? Because Joe Biden can't fucking debate people. That's why they did that. Because if Joe Biden got on stage with Cenk Uygur, he'd get fucking destroyed.
I got a slight pushback. Now, I agree that Cenk would destroy Biden in the debate. Right now, it looks like a kid would destroy Biden in the debate. So I'm not defending Biden's debate skills. But here's something I disagree with. In regards to you saying that the Democrats closed off the primary to Cenk, just like many say they closed it off to Bernie Sanders back in 2016. I think the Democratic Party, and this is my opinion, you can tell me where I'm getting it wrong. I think the Democratic Party has saw what happened to the Republican Party, whereas they let someone run representing the party that is not a member of the party. Trump is not a Republican. Cenk and Bernie Sanders are not Democrats. So in reality,
you're right.
Okay. And that's why I believe they shut and I believe that's why they shut the party down, is because the Republicans didn't do it, and Trump has come in and just totally divided that party in half. If they let Cenk and some of these folks in, they'll chop the party in pieces.
No, you don't. See, but that's not the reason why. The reason why is because when you let a progressive in, right, and they start making policies that actually benefit the majority of the American people, that's the end of your fucking corporate money right there.
It's the end of your party, too.
Hang on to power.
Yeah, it will be the end of the party, too.
Okay.
Yeah. So
That's good.
why would the
Good.
Democrats?
If you can end the Democrat, listen to me. If you can end the Democrat Party in the form it is now and reform it in a non-corporatist party with progressives at the helm, you now have the most elite, can't lose political party in all history.
I like the way you're sounding, but I will say this. If Cenk or some other progressive was what the country needed, they shouldn't have to run as a Democrat. Run as an independent and let people see what you're capable of. You shouldn't have to steal. You shouldn't have to steal the Democratic
look at all the
name.
money you need to run.
Well,
That's a ludicrous statement. Look at all the money you need to run as president. Look at how you have to have all these PACs and donations and people behind you. You have people like AIPAC spending $24 million against.
But I thought you didn't. I thought you didn't want.
Fucking loses.
But I thought you didn't want a candidate that takes corporate money.
Yeah, that's why we need to get the money out, right? So that people are all on an even playing field, my dude.
Yeah.
There shouldn't be this much money flowing through the system. You shouldn't need billions of dollars to run for president.
So what you're saying is the Democratic Party should let someone like Cenk or I won't say AOC is quite yet, because she is somewhat Democrat, but let's say you're saying that the Democratic Party should let a progressive into the game so that they can change it away from the rules that the Democratic Party favors. They're not going to do that.
What is this about? Is it about keeping these people with lining their pockets with corporate money, or is this about doing good for the American people and winning elections? Which do you want? Because you can't have both. From what I see right now, Democrats don't want to win this election. They're running a guy with cognitive, imperative things going on. I don't know exactly what Biden has going on, but it's obvious he has something going on, right? And then you're talking about you want to run Kamala Harris, who polls worse than Biden, who can't speak.
I don't know if that's true.
People don't like her.
Moo, I don't know if that's true. I think
I'll show you some of her speeches.
I'm not talking about the speech.
And you'll see.
I'm not talking about just the speeches. I've seen many polls, and we can argue about the polls, but they're suggesting she's more competitive with Trump than Biden is right now.
No poll shows that. Not one. And if it does, find it for me. Show it to me. Not one poll shows Kamala Harris polling higher than Joe Biden. She's either tied with Trump or under. One of the two. Not one poll.
Okay. All right. I'll have to see if I can. I'll see if I can find that and present that to you. But in regards to her, I got to move it on. But in regards to our progressive conversation, I don't think the Democratic Party is going to let somebody come in that's made it clear, I want to completely erase the way you guys have been operating and doing business. You got to run as a progressive. You're not going to run as a Democrat.
Guess what, guys? You need... Right, so the thing is right. Then we're fucked. We're fucked at that point, right? Yeah. Because you have fascism and corporate money flowing through on the right, and you have massive corporatism flowing through on the left. So we're officially fucked at that point if we can't get this money out of our system and have a legitimate party that's really for the people. I'm going around here trying to give advice to these dumbass Democrats on how they can win this election very easily, and they're too busy being loyal to a guy who can't keep his jaw shut.
Well, like I said, I understand your point. You're no fan of Biden, but at the end of the day, this is the system we have, and it's pretty clear. A lot of people don't favor a progressive president. It's not enough people to get him in.
One more thing. I also heard some bullshit coming from the blue MAGA saying that MAGA wants Biden to drop out. That's what they want. So MAGA, I know we don't get along, guys, but there's a lot of you watching and on YouTube too. Just be honest, guys. Type a 1 in chat if you are MAGA and you think your best bet is running against Joe Biden and not someone else. If you're MAGA and you want Trump to run against Joe Biden instead of someone else, type 1 in the chat on YouTube and type 1 in the chat on TikTok, but only if you're MAGA.
Okay, because I'm not MAGA. I'm not MAGA, and I'm damn near ready to push one. I got to move it on, though.
There we go. Look at all the ones coming.
Yeah.
All the ones coming, okay?
Okay. And that doesn't make sense to you?
Yeah, it makes so again, I'm talking about the gaslighting that Blue MAGA is doing to the Democrats right now, right? They're saying, well, the reason people are saying Biden should drop out is because that's a MAGA talking point. That's a MAGA talking point. You guys are gaslighting people. MAGA wants Joe Biden to stay because they know he's in cognitive
I believe that.
decline.
Yeah, I believe that. I said that at the beginning of the program.
So, guys, don't get gaslit by either side. Listen to people who don't take corporate donations, okay? Listen to people who have no interest in your money at all, okay?
All right, Moo. Appreciate you coming on. Good talk as always. Moo's strong. Moo is a strong conversation. And there's a lot of folks in the comment section that favors Moo. Nothing wrong with that. He is certainly left of me. I don't have an issue with that. I don't have an issue with people that are much further right of me. What do we say? We go left of Bernie Sanders to I'm having dinner with Q. So everybody gets to speak. However, a few points I was pushing back with him on, even when we were talking, is that I don't believe there's enough Americans in this country that want a progressive politician. Now, he's pointing out corporate money and things like that. Well, corporate money makes a difference. Money makes a difference. It's hard having an election where money does not make a difference. Now, I understand that progressives get a lot of individual donations. Obama ran a campaign like that as well. But even at that level, there's going to likely be some corruption. You start putting a bunch of money in people's hands, it can create corrupt people where there may not normally have been one. So I don't know in regards to that. Now, in regards to his statement that the progressives are in favor of the American people, once again, I will say that's subjective. I mean, if you are pro-life, for instance, you're not going to vote for a progressive. Maybe you think being pro-life is for the American people. Or if you're pro-Second Amendment, you're probably not going to favor a progressive, but maybe you believe allowing gun ownership and protecting the Second Amendment is for the people. So it really depends on your politics. Looking in the comments, though, American politics would be better if independent party was treated the same as the two awful choices. Well, Ginger on YouTube, the problem is when you say the independent party, that could be a lot of different people. There's a lot of different groups, Brown Party, Green Party, the Tea Party. All of those groups can be called independent. I mean, if you allowed every party that ran to be treated equally, I mean, you could have 10, 15 parties in a race. Now, a lot of folks will say, well, yay, that gives us choice. But I don't know how the election would run like that. I mean, the fact is, it does take money to run a political campaign. And I don't know how the hell you could get that out of the race. I mean, unless you forced advertising stations, media outlets to literally allow anybody that wanted to have a presidential run free advertising on your outlet. Because that's where a lot of the money goes. You got to pay money to advertise on the television, to advertise on the internet, to hold rallies and speeches. That stuff costs money. If your party doesn't have money, you have a hard time getting your message out. I don't know how you can take it out. Looking in the box, better yet, can't get my words out today. Den Cow, friend of the program, subscriber, good afternoon, asking that question. Do you think Biden will be on the ballot come November, Den Cow? Good afternoon.
Well, according to what he says today, yes. He said he's staying. He's saying all of this stuff about people saying that he's thinking about quit. All of that is a lie. That's what he's saying.
Yeah.
And that's all we can go by. And at the end of the day, we can all have this pity party, or we can, talk,
Yeah, but wait a minute. Just because he is saying something, for instance, when Trump first began his trial, the Alvin Bragg trial, where he was found guilty of 34 felonies, he was swearing up and down that he was going to testify. Even when he was saying it, all of the legal eagles, the analysts, even on Fox News and on right-wing media, they were making it clear why he was telling people, him and his attorney Elena Hobbit, saying, we're going to testify. They were like, no, he's not. They knew when he was telling people that he's going to testify that he was lying. Is it possible that people know what Biden is saying right now is probably not the truth? Or do you just take Biden at his word?
I just say from the perspective of looking at what's coming out, if his team or him if they were leaning towards making a decision like that, I don't think that they would come out this strongly. I think that they would allow some of the rumors to marinate a little bit and get a taste for how the public feels. But they coming out saying flatly, all of that stuff is a lie. He's going to be on the ballot. He's talking about having, doing his interview, and he's concentrating on continuing to run the government. I don't know. Usually politicians, when they say, like, please let's not compare Trump to anybody when it comes to lying.
But I mean, so they're coming out strongly. I get it, but at the end of the day, there's no chance. You don't believe there's no chance at all, because you got folks that are saying behind the scenes, okay, this whole mix-up or losing this train of thought that Biden had on during the debate last Thursday. A lot of Democrats are coming forward and saying he does that a lot. I mean, we just haven't been telling you. There's a reason why Biden hasn't been doing a lot of rallies and speeches. It's probably because that happens. So let me ask it to you this way. Do you believe that anyone could convince Biden to step down? Or do you think it's him saying, I'm going to ride it out no matter what?
That's the whole problem. The decision is squarely up to him. Nobody can force him out unless they have the VP on their side to invoke the 25th. So everything is all about whether he says he wants to stay or not. And, old people have a tendency to be, honorary.
A bit stubborn.
And stubborn. So all I'm saying is, we're having all of this debate about this. I do wish that he would hurry up and make a decision and that be it. And then we'll run however we run. But obviously, we've all been having this discussion about, well, the Democrats are just like
Blue MAGA. Blue MAGA is the term.
No, I'm talking about the regular MAGA. That Democrats are just like them because they're going to vote for Joe Biden regardless.
Yeah.
So I accept that criticism. I accept that criticism because just like Moose said, move about as far left as you can get. But guess what he said? I'm still going to vote for him. Yeah. When he just called him the most horrible person, horrible candidate in history. Well, I'll take his vote. You know what I'm saying? I'll accept his vote. And if anybody who is serious about what the end of democracy might look like and giving somebody like Trump those types of powers given to him now by the Supreme Court, if they're cool with saying, okay, well, I just don't want an old guy who loses his train of thought running the country. I'm just going to allow this wannabe dictator to go ahead and run it because he looks better standing on stage, then that's on them. I mean, I can't control it,
Well, speaking of your term about that's on them, let me ask it to you this way. Let's say Biden does remain on the ticket until November and loses the election to Trump. Would you, if the Democrats lost to Trump with Biden at the helm, would you believe that Biden is responsible for that? Would you put any blame on Biden for maybe not stepping down or anything? Or would you just, it is what it is?
I mean, at the end of the day, what I believe was the cause or not, it doesn't matter. What matters is what the American people as a unit, what do we want our leadership to look like? And, obviously, I don't want to see somebody, bumbling, stumbling, fumbling, Then
why vote for him? Then why vote for him?
Because I have a duty to vote in what I think the leadership of the country looks like. And if I don't have the perfect candidate, which I never will, I have to vote for somebody who I think will at least maintain the status quo. Because nobody says this country has never been great as it is today.
So I'm listening to you. Are you really that fearful that if Trump is reelected, he's going to take the country down a dark path?
Oh, I mean, he said it. I don't even understand why that's a question now. The people around him, he has said it. His 4 years. Well, I'm not going to even say 4 years because they're pretty much giving him the ability to do whatever he wants to through the Supreme Court. He's told you he's going to be about retribution and getting back at the people, and his fans are cool with that.
So how do you respond to someone like in the comments? Cool T says things were good under Trump. A lot of folks are like, it sucks now. You're talking about how bad Trump is going to be. They believe it sucks right now.
When he says it's cool, it might have been cool for him in specific types of ways. But my vision of his term was not cool. There were people out in the streets rioting, protesting. I mean, trying to fight for rights, and then we moved right into a pandemic that was poorly handled, which caused hundreds of thousands of lives to be lost. You can say that's cool because the gas was cheap during COVID, but it wasn't cool to me because nobody cared about gas during COVID.
But when you say people was in the street rioting and fighting for rights, I mean the biggest group was obviously Black Lives Matter. Do you blame Black Lives Matter believing their rights were being taken? Do you blame that on Trump?
No. When somebody says life was good during Trump, I'm just trying to point out what was going on in the country.
Well said. Okay.
I'm definitely not blaming Trump for that. That was a movement by people who got tired of seeing people, gunned down, strangled, and turn around, hunted down by people in the pickup truck. We got tired of hearing about that, and nothing was happening to the powers that be.
Do you think Biden has done a better job with that stuff?
We don't see those. I mean, we do see things happening, but now after the Black Lives Matter, after that stuff happened, we have started seeing accountability for these people in higher places, and there's no other place to look other than the president of the United States being held accountable. So I think, yes, there was success that came out of Black Lives Matter that people don't want to admit because they think that we just wanted, black people to just be, to have more rights than others. No, we understand if black people commit crimes, they going to jail. They going to jail. That's it.
Is that what's happening? I mean, we're seeing stores being looted. Obviously, the Black Lives Matter riots you're talking about, people committed a lot of crimes and did not go to jail. They're going to point that out.
Okay, but the difference in those situations is when you're dealing with a mass protest, or you're dealing with tens or hundreds of thousands of people, and you have people who go into stores or whatever. People don't remember that was during the time of COVID. Everybody was.
No, that's happening. No, that's still happening now. Didn't count. There's still some mob robberies going on.
But what are they doing? They're using masks. They're hiding their faces, and they're doing it in mobs. You can't. What can you do? You can't. The only difference now is that people did January 6th out in broad daylight with their face out and open. That's why they getting picked up to this day.
I can't argue with that. And then they posted it on their social media pages and bragged about it too.
The people in the hood that ran up in the Louis Vuitton store and stole a bunch of stuff, you don't know who they are.
Yeah. I can't argue with that. Well, I want to ask you this one last question before I move it on. This comes from Twain to Square on YouTube, says the best choice if you are anti-Trump is Biden. If you don't like Trump, if you're never Trump or like yourself believe Trump is a threat to democracy, do you believe Biden is indeed the best choice?
Yes, he is. Like we don't understand. I don't understand why we have this hard time understanding.
Because the man can't speak, didn't count. That's why we're having this conversation.
I'm not talking about him. I am talking about the opposition, the other person.
Okay. All right.
We're saying that the man can't run the country, but the country is being ran right now. These people are still going to work, getting their paychecks, and they're talking about how he can't talk. But guess what? Everything in government is still functioning the way it should be.
That's a good point. And I see in the comments somebody says, but he ain't running it. But in the comments, I didn't see who name was that, Christie or somebody says, but he ain't running it. What about the notion that, okay, you're right, government is still functioning, but the guy on television is turned into a figurehead? I mean, most folks now believe that Biden ain't the one running the country.
Okay, well, if there's some dark shadowy figures behind him pulling the strings and getting us the infrastructure bill and the PACT Act and trying to get something done with school loans and doing all of these things that are for regular citizens in the country, then I'm down for the puppet master, whoever that is in the background.
I like it. I'm down. Hey, you do fit the. Sure, go ahead.
One thing I want to say before you let me go is that what Moo was saying about the money. We got to get the money out of politics. Not that Pandora's box has been opened, and you're not putting it back in there.
No, that ain't gonna happen.
The same people that would have to be the ones to get rid of it are the very people that's benefiting from it. Who in Congress? People ain't out there talking about getting rid of Citizens United. Neither left or right.
Yeah, and I do believe Bernie Sanders, who is probably the father of progressives, I think he even got caught up in something that was money related. You're never going to get people to ignore money. I don't know how that would ever happen.
Once it's in, the people you're talking about are so powerful. How are the people that actually hire the lobbyists to lobby for their businesses going to say, all right, well, we just won't send that money over there to get him to vote our way. It's always going to be like that now.
It is a capitalist country, and that's the number one thing capitalists like is money. So I don't know how you get around that. But Dan Cal, you know what I got to do. Appreciate you coming in, man. Hey, good talk. Good talk. You too. Larry S. on YouTube made a good point here. Like you keep saying, Tim, we are not just voting for gas prices and such. We are fighting to ensure the checks and balances used by this nation willfully follow the Constitution set forth. I like that. I do. I will say this, with the way Biden comes across in terms of cognitive abilities, I do believe that the Republicans could probably also say anybody but Trump would have a pretty good chance of beating Biden. I mean, not to say that Trump may not beat Biden as well, but Trump's unfavorable numbers are astronomically high. I strongly believe Nikki Haley would have trashed Joe Biden by a lot. You talk about winning by a landslide that Trump often brags about. Nikki Haley would have beat Biden by a landslide because she does not have those huge unfavorable numbers that Trump has. I mean, Trump may ultimately win, but the unfavorable numbers of Trump is by far his biggest obstacle. It's not what Biden is doing. It's not like Biden, or better yet, Trump is fighting against Biden supporters. No, he's fighting against people that don't like him. As my last guest, but both of my last guests have pointed out, they would literally vote for anybody over Trump. So Trump is not running against Biden. He is running against his unfavorability. He's running against the nation that don't like him. You can replace Biden with anybody. And I think that Trump would still have a competitive individual on their hands. Kamala was not very well liked, even by the Democrats when she first came in this. But now when you start saying that, well, her opposition may be Trump, her numbers are going up. Simply put, it's because of Trump. As I stated, I do believe Nikki Haley or somebody like that would have had way bigger and better numbers. And I was asking my last guest before I go back to the box, if Biden loses, I personally do think a lot of Democrats are going to say, if we had got rid of this guy, we could have put up somebody that was more competitive against Trump. I do believe that there will be Democrats blaming Biden if he loses. However, it works both ways. If Biden wins, what I just said about Nikki Haley, you're going to hear that shit all over right-wing media. Why didn't we ignore the fact that people were complaining about the felonies, or people were complaining about January 6th, or people were complaining about the tweets? Why did we ignore this and keep forcing this guy through when we had people out there that didn't have this amount of unfavorability? I do believe if either one of these men lose, their party is going to be saying, we knew we had the wrong guy running and we chose to stick with him. I believe that's going to happen no matter which side wins and loses. Look at it in the comments, though. Biden should step down. There's a lot of people who are saying that. How much you make per year, if you don't mind me asking? It has nothing to do with the conversation game on, unless you're offering to improve my annual earnings. Feel free to state that. Going back to the box, Connie Tolbert Good afternoon. Welcome to the program, Connie. Ask our secondary question was indeed because July 4th is tomorrow. And I want to ask you folks, do you believe freedom is at risk? The box is kind of problematic, so we'll wait for the box to reset. I do want to address a couple super chats. Mr. Kelly stated earlier that this is humorous, or whatever you want to call it. It doesn't fall in line with the topic, but he says, attention, I farted. Alert, I sharted. I don't normally read comments like that, but he did purchase a super chat. I read all super chat comments. So Mr. Kelly says, attention, I farted. Alert, I sharted. There you go. Name Barbara says Vivek couldn't because they wouldn't vote for a brown person. Even though he's just brown, we got Trump at home. Well, that's the right side of the aisle. And that's the reason you don't have Nikki Haley. But I do believe if the Maga wing of the Republican Party had been willing to open their arms and embrace Nikki Haley, she would be on the path to really beat Biden. The reason I say that is because a lot of independents looking at Biden, his cognitive abilities, wouldn't be scared of Trump. You see what my last caller said? It got nothing to do with Biden. They are afraid that Trump is trying to take away freedoms and democracy. Nobody talked like that about Nikki Haley. Also, there's a hell of a lot of traditional Romney, Cheney, Bush-like, McCain family-like Republicans that would never vote for Trump. They would have all got behind Nikki Haley. So Nikki Haley would have unified the Republican Party as well. So she would have unified the Republican Party, swallowed up a bunch of independents, and even maybe a few, I don't want to say a lot, but maybe a few liberals who don't want a president with zero cognitive abilities or declining cognitive abilities in office. And you got Nikki Haley, well-spoken, and she's not like that. A few would have been willing to vote for her. I think she would have won by a lot. I think Nikki Haley would have won by a lot. But Trump, on the other hand, there's a lot of people that don't like him. Let's try the box again. My last caller did not come through. We tried to bring her up. We'll go to Kevin J., another subscriber. Good afternoon, Kevin. Good afternoon, Kevin. Kevin, are you there? Yeah.
I am.
Okay. So do you think I got it wrong when I said Nikki Haley could have won by a landslide?
Against Joe Biden, you're absolutely right.
Yeah. More so than Trump.
What do you mean more so than Trump?
By a larger margin.
Oh, yeah, but I don't think Trump can beat him.
Really?
And yeah, I mean, the spin machine's too good. But I'm hearing, I heard on a podcast this morning, and it's just a prediction, but it's somebody who's been a super, super, super Biden guy and defending him the whole time, and said he thinks he's going to retire and before the election and let Kamala take over.
But as my last guest pointed out, right now you got the spokesperson for the Biden administration on television still trying to present a strong front. They're not talking retirement. In fact, in my opinion, if he's going to do that, the more time he gives the Democrats to get acclimated to the replacement, the better. So why keep putting up this strong front if you're going to retire?
Well, see, I agree with you that the sooner the better, but at the same time, he's a prideful man, and they're likely trying to save his ego. And no, we're all for this. I know everybody's telling him to do this, but he's not going to. It's that dumb thing. At least to me, this is the way it seems. It's, well, when you tell somebody they should do something, they immediately don't.
So you're basically saying he's similar to Trump, where he's putting his ego over the good of the country.
Yes, absolutely.
Wow. Biden, huh?
Absolutely.
Wow.
I'm not a big fan of him. I'm a fan of some of the things that have gotten done while he's been in office, and I would absolutely defend, some of the situations we're in this country aren't his fault, but at the same time, I've been wanting him to step down for a while. When he was running in 2020, he was hinting at the fact that he was only going for one term.
He did do that. He absolutely did do that.
And so it scares me that, I do believe that he's got some cognitive issues, believe the reports that I hear that from 10 in the morning to 2 in the afternoon when he's doing his meetings and whatnot, he's very much alert and very much there, but they're trying to get any important stuff in that 4-hour span and not after, because then the brain starts to go to mush.
Yeah, I think at this point, after seeing a debate where it was clear for months that everybody's going to focus on your cognitive abilities. If you couldn't live up to expectations during that was game time. If you failed then, you clearly have to be failing on your normal daily schedule.
I agree.
Yeah.
I agree. And like my dad and I, we argue all the time. My dad's been a huge Biden supporter to me. The one thing that we absolutely agree about is that we can't stand Trump and can't risk Trump there. You asked if freedom was on the line.
Yes.
On the last caller, and I was thinking about it. You know what? I'm 49 years old and I'm white and I can fit in with a bunch of different crowds. My freedom wouldn't be on the line, but I can think of all my daughter's freedoms on the line.
Well, you have heard of the phrase, I'm assuming, N-word lover, though. I mean, folks who fought for civil rights and freedoms for others were viewed as an enemy. Just like anytime you hear, like with Cal Rittenhouse, taking out folks that were white, but they were fighting alongside Black Lives Matter, then you're good to go. So even though you're white, if you're on the wrong team, you still could be fair game.
And I agree with that, and like having a conversation, and some of the conversations I've had in the past with my history that I've had with you in the past, and my history 25 years ago and the people that I associated with, all I'm saying is me personally, I can fit in anywhere.
Right.
I'm a recovering addict. I'm a chameleon, and if I got to fit in with white supremacists, if that's what I have to do, I can fit in with them. You know what I mean?
I understand. I mean, a lot of guys go to prison and they're forced to do that because the numbers are so far in favor of black people. Like I'm not a white supremacist, but for my sake of survival, I got to hang with them.
Right.
Yeah.
And that's kind of how I look at it. I'm just, I'm really this week, it like hit home, that Supreme Court ruling on Monday, where like I wasn't super scared of Trump getting into office, because we still had some checks and balances, and then the Supreme Court paving the road for Project 2025 and Agenda 47 and all of that. That's scary as shit to me.
Yeah, I gotta say, there's a couple things that have, because Trump's policies, the way he ran the country, I don't think is what is concerning people as much. I think it is the stuff that happened after, like January 6th, and you're bringing up the Supreme Court ruling. This is the stuff that's scaring the hell out of people because it's unlike any other president.
The thing you got to understand, though, in the way that he ran the country in the 4 years that he was there, he had a ton of people telling him no.
Yeah.
So it's not really the way he ran the country, because if he ran the country the way he wanted to and they all said yes, we'd be nuking hurricanes and stuff like that, and shooting protesters in the leg and all of that stuff that he wanted to do.
Yeah.
And now, I don't know if you've read into Project 2025 or the thing that something about Schedule F, I think it is, where they're reclassifying career government employees. And this is people like scientists and engineers and experts, and the FDA. And one of the things they want to do is they want to get the FDA to recall their approval of mifepristone completely and take that completely away from the country.
Wow.
I mean, and they've already got guys working on looking at everybody that's working that's a career employee of the government, not just a political employee, out of the 60,000 or so they call career or whatever, and like 4,000 are political employees that change with administrations, but the ones that stay, the Anthony Fauci types and the FDA types.
So what you're saying, now do you believe Trump himself is trying to run as a dictator?
Yes.
So you believe that what they're going to do is get rid of the career politicians and impose a guy that's going to be in for the rest of his life?
Yeah, I think they're calling it unitary authority or something, is what they're calling it, where the president basically has the authority over everything.
Wow.
They want to get rid of the checks and balances in that. And the thing to remember, though, is that Trump's just the willing guy for them. You know, they're not going to stop either. If Trump loses, they're going to find somebody else that's willing to say yes. And
I will say this, though. The thing about it is, if Trump wins, perhaps the things you're saying may come to fruition. But if Trump loses, I think the Republican Party is going to be in shambles for a while. Because there is nobody that has the energy or draw as President Trump. So once Trump is gone, because the MAGA will still be there. It's just the Tea Party rebranded as MAGA. But once Trump is gone, now you're going to have a bunch of different factions trying to get that type of power. I don't think there's anybody in the Republican Party that is currently in place to be number two to absorb that type of adoration, for lack of a better term. There are a lot of people that they like. I mean, they like DeSantis or Vivek, but nobody would get the amount of support that Trump gets from the Republican Party. So if he doesn't win, that party's going to be significantly weaker because now you're going to have everybody breaking apart. Right now, I mean, they're fairly united under Trump, but if he loses, people are going to go in every direction.
I absolutely agree with that too, but I also wonder that, well, so if he loses, it's going to be rigged, right? That we got to
depends on who runs. I agree with you. If he loses to Biden, he's certainly going to say there's no way in hell I would lose to a guy that doesn't even know who he is. But let's say, for instance, for shits and giggles, Michelle Obama ran. I don't think anybody would believe him if he said that was rigged. I think everybody knows he would beat him.
Well, first off, think about the fact that it doesn't matter if anybody believes him. He still says it.
Good point.
Right?
Good point. Yeah, good point.
I mean, he said that, what was it, the television show, the Tonys or whatever they are, Grammys or whatever they
said that was rigged too. The Emmys. Yeah, the Emmys, I think it was.
Yeah, the Emmys. There you go. They were rigged because The Apprentice didn't win. You know, everything he doesn't win, it's because it's rigged, no matter what. You know,
I can't disagree that Trump has a lengthy history of saying things as rigged. When Dr. Oz was running against Fetterman, Trump was supporting Oz, and he was saying that they were rigging the election in Pennsylvania, and Dr. Oz came forward and said that's not happening. So, I mean, he has a lengthy history of saying things are rigged.
Jesus Christ could come back and run against Trump, and when Jesus Christ won in this country, he'd still say it was rigged.
I gotta go. All right, Kevin. Appreciate you coming through, man.
Hey, thanks. You have a good day.
Anytime. Oh my God, Jesus Christ rigged the election against me. Wow. Down with Trump, the dictator chump, says Jess with eyes. Oh, tell us how you really feel. In Trump we trust. Carlos says in Trump we trust. You want to put his face on your money? Isn't there a few red states that have named highways and things like that already after Trump? Because I was stating, due to Trump's unpopularity, that if he loses, now if he wins, it could be shit. It could be like Kim Jong-un or something. But if he loses, I think it will be challenging to name institutions and things like that after him, outside of being in the South. Down in the South, you may have schools and everything named after Trump. But like, let's say, for instance, the USS Trump, I don't believe you'll ever see that. You know, Navy, perhaps a Navy ship, like we have the Gerald Ford. I think H.W. Bush now has a ship named after him. Because President Nixon only has 2 schools named after him in all of America because of how he went out at the end of his term. And yeah, I don't know. Trump, I think Trump will be a center of controversy, at least for the rest of our lives. And most of us probably will outlive Trump because of his age, but I think he will be a center of controversy even after he's gone. Like the Trump library, you know, they built a presidential library. I mean, Trump has a lot of controversial tweets and things like that. All of that stuff is, you know, recorded history. So there will be a lot of controversy around Trump. Many would suggest a red hat will go down in history as a symbol of something. We can talk about that. Some have suggested it'll be comparable to the likes of the Confederate flag. We'll see what happens, but he will be surrounded in controversy. I stated before, even if the guy lives to be 110 years of age, when he passes away, somebody's going to say it was a hit. Even if the guy lives to be 110, somebody's going to say somebody got to him. Looking in the comment, going back to the box, we'll continue it on with Jeremy 55.6. Is freedom Is freedom at risk come November? Jeremy, good afternoon.
Hello, it's good to be back. I love seeing you every day, Tim. How you feeling?
Appreciate it. Good to have you. Let me interrupt you by say for instance, tap the screen, folks. I haven't been soliciting that. We should be around 50,000 likes by now, but because I haven't asked, you guys have some lazy thumbs in here. Tap the screen, get the likes up to at least about 40,000. I'd appreciate that. Is freedom on the table? Jeremy, what say you?
I'd say yes. I would definitely say yes, because I think that Joe, I don't think he's running the country, but I think whoever actually is definitely not looking to make the country more free.
So you believe we would be more free if we vote in a Democrat?
A different, wait, did you say a Democrat?
If we vote in, you're admitting that freedom is at risk, but would that change if we vote a Republican or a Democrat? Which side is threatening freedom?
So far, I would say it'd be Republican, but only certain types of Republicans. I think that there's kind of I think that both parties are a little screwy when it comes to freedom. They want us to take away freedom, but for different things. But there's like the more dissident parts of both parties that I think are a lot better.
Give me some examples of what freedoms you think are at risk. If let's say, because you mentioned the Republican Party first, let's say Trump was reelected. What freedoms you believe are at risk?
Well, I think that with Trump, I think that here's the thing. I think that we're mostly going to be okay with Trump, but I think that there are people don't want to admit that he's not as pro 2A as people think they are. You see, remember what happened with like one of the mass shootings that happened a while back. What did
he talked about he banned bump stocks, but he also talked about taking away guns and then giving people due process.
Exactly. And so I think that, you see, and I think that it was more politically convenient for him at the time. And I think that he's a little bit softer than people want to give him like credit for. I think when push comes to shove, he's not as much of a rock as he is like a piece of concrete on the water. So,
he certainly has a history of making anti-2A statements. I mean, he definitely does. I mean, he hasn't taken away really any 2A rights, but he certainly has a lot of quotes out there. I believe before he became president, he's on video saying, "Why does anybody even need an AR-15?" I mean, yeah, he said some pretty strong anti-2A stuff.
Yeah, and that's the thing. And you see, the one thing people forget is that most of our rights hinder on the Second Amendment, because here's what people don't want to admit. Governments are run by imperfect, flawed human beings, no better or no worse than you and me. And these are people who are more than willing to do things that are wrong for their own expedience. And there's no such thing as a perfect government, and that doesn't mean government is the ultimate evil.
But you said our rights are hinged on 2A. Do you believe that the reason we are a free country is because we had a Second Amendment?
Absolutely, 110%.
So how do you respond to the fact that a lot of other countries are pretty damn free that don't have gun rights?
I would contest that they aren't nearly as free as we are. They might be free, but not to the same extent. Like the only ones that I really think has come close to it are ones that have plenty of close to 2A. Like for instance, Switzerland, which is filled to the brim with guns. Like they have mandatory military training, and they actually were part of the inspiration for the 2A documents in the United States in the first place.
I gotta disagree with you. I lived in Australia, plenty of time in New Zealand. Neither one of those countries have gun rights. I don't see the missing freedoms. I mean, I lived in Australia for 5 years. I was able to, purchase a property, or better yet, an apartment, had my own car, job. I had all the freedoms you have here. What do you mean?
How long ago was that, Tim?
I left in 2009.
2009. So that was a good amount of time ago. Since then, we've had more. Australia had some pretty draconian rules when it came to COVID.
Yeah, but that's a once in a lifetime event.
Oh, trust me, they're still having a hard time rolling back some of their old policies.
I'm still trying to figure out what freedoms we have here that they don't have there.
They don't have complete freedom of speech.
Says who? How? What freedom? What can they not say in Australia?
Ooh, there's a long list. Comedians have definitely been targeted plenty of times by the Australian government for speaking out of turn, or it's especially in COVID, just even like having skepticism towards the vaccine. Now we've actually seen.
Well, yeah, but I get your point on the vaccine where everybody was frightened and things like that. But in terms of world history or even Australian history, that's a span of a few, maybe a year and a half. Other than that COVID pandemic time, I'm not seeing the freedoms that you have here in America that they don't have.
You see, oh man, I forgot the exact example I was going to use, but there was something about like, oh, sorry, give me a second. No, turn off.
that used to work on my ex-wife too, but keep going.
Yeah, so there's like oh man, I can't think of the exact example, but there was something about a trade in like Australia has a bit of a problem with the United States when it comes to trade aiding because we undermine some of their biggest exports, which would be sheep.
Let me just say it this way. Let me say it this way. Freedom is what you believe is important. For instance, there's a hell of a lot of marijuana smokers in America. You've been free to do that without threat of being prosecuted in half of Western Europe far longer than you have in the United States. In fact, it's still not federally legal in the United States. Marijuana has been legal in other countries for a hell of a long time. Interracial marriage, gay marriage, prostitution, you can do all of that stuff in other countries. So when you say freedom, it's freedoms that you care about. But freedoms that somebody else may care about may actually be more existent in other countries.
There is some truth to that. But I would say the freedom to even speak about it is much more prevalent in the United States than it is anywhere else. Like even like in Canada, like I remember there was like a really famous comedian back in 2014 who would actually have to go before a tribunal just for like misgendering somebody.
Yeah, I think you're picking some very small examples. What I'm saying is this: when I lived in Australia, me personally, I'm not a comedian wanting to get on stage and say something. I wasn't worried about the pandemic. There was nothing I do here in America that I could not do over there.
Well, fair enough. But again, that was a bit of a time ago, and
it's 15 years.
They didn't fully ban guns altogether. They gradually banned more and more access to them.
I actually did a little cash in transit over there, so which is basically like Brinks driver or whatever. So I actually did what it took to own a fire, and they make you leave it at work when you leave. I mean, even the cops don't get to bring their guns home. It's hard to get a gun in Australia. It's pretty heavily limited.
Where you are.
Huh?
It also depends on what state you're at, and they've enforced it a little bit less in the rural areas.
Yeah, but the point I'm saying is you don't lose freedoms automatically by leaving America. America is by far not the freest country on earth. It's one of them. But the idea that everybody else in the world has less freedoms than America, that's not true.
Oh, well, again, I would give you examples like Canada, where like the government, even the prime minister basically has more power than any president has ever had over his own country.
But I'm asking you, if you left here in America and went to Canada, what kind of freedoms are you losing? Okay, maybe their gun rights are different. I mean, what are you doing in your life now that if you went to Canada you couldn't do?
There are certain things you can't do, like you can't enslave, like the trucker protest was justified. Even if you can't do that in a public forum, you'll get crucified by the police. They'll start following you around. There's been people who have actually found out that they are being spied on by provincial police just because they spoke out.
You realize how many folks in this country with George W. Bush's Patriot Act were getting spied on? I mean, George W. Bush, the Patriot Act
violation. I did not respect it at all.
Right, but it's the law, and they're still using it. It's the law. How many people that look like me has been randomly stopped and frisked? I mean, there's freedoms that we don't have.
Oh well, I think that's actually not a bad point. There is some disparity with race when it comes to
skin color.
Well, and color. I think in the United States we kind of use those interchangeably, but you know what I mean, ethnic minorities in the United States. But what we do, I think I forgot what the professor's name is. He showed that when it comes to actual uses of violence, or like shootings by police, it's actually even amongst all the different ethnicities.
Yeah, because and Trump said the same thing. Well, more whites get shot by cops. I don't necessarily disagree with that. I don't have the numbers, but I tell you, it is when we have conversations about police misconduct. Why does everybody jump all the way to who gets shot? Rodney King didn't get shot. George Floyd didn't get shot. I mean, what is the name? Twana Brawley or whatever. She didn't get shot. There's a whole lot of people that get mistreated by cops that don't get shot. There's all sorts of things a person can do to you, violate all sorts of civil rights that don't involve you even getting beaten. Wrongful searches and seizures, all sorts of things that can happen.
Well, I think it's because two things. Number one, it's the most extreme negative thing that can happen. But also number two, I mean, how many times have we seen like propaganda on TV that says that if you are black in America, you have just as much chance of getting shot as or like you're way more likely to actually get shot by police for like wearing a hoodie or something like that. So I think it's a little bit of a backlash against that. Sure, there definitely needs to be some resolution, and I think what a certain professor, I can't remember his name, I think his name was Roland Fryer, that's who I'm thinking of, Roland Fryer. He said that he thinks that they kind of feed each other, the police and the negative response by the people they're policing both kind of make each other suspicious of each other.
Well, the reason why the police get so much flack, particularly from minorities, is just the way police were founded in this country. They were founded to continue. They were founded to oppress and mistreat minorities. I'm not saying that it still runs that way, but that's the way the country was founded. The police started out bringing slaves back and went from there.
It was, this is the slave catcher myth. Yeah, that was actually debunked. It was...
Okay, wait, hold on. Let's go ahead and... I'm not even going to debate, but let's just go ahead and say you're right. The slave catcher myth was debunked. Okay, then we skip to the Jim Crow era. Certain neighborhoods you can't be in, or what happened to Rosa. The police was used to enforce all of that, too.
That's true. That is very
true. All right,
true.
then. So that's 100 years or more of police oppression.
Yeah, I know. I totally understand. And oftentimes... the sins of the father are laid at the feet of the son, and that's not fair on anybody.
Well, I'm just simply saying for folks who always wonder, well, why the hell do blacks always have a chance? That's where it came from, is that the police have an incredibly lengthy history of being the ones that were used to enforce all of that oppression. If I was in your neighborhood and you didn't want me there, you didn't come out and say nothing. You called the police, and they were the ones that was doing all this stuff. So that's why the people have this... resistive relationship.
Right, and I hope that it gets resolved. I do hope that both sides start to kind of like hold back a little bit and start to really talk to each other.
It's getting better, but it's not going to happen overnight. And that's what I think a lot of folks wanted. Okay, we've given you freedom. Shut up and stop complaining. It doesn't work like that. First of all, if let's say, for instance, I was born in that era and the civil rights changed while I was in that era. So all of a sudden I'm used to oppression. Civil Rights Act gets passed while I'm in my 30s. Do I forget everything that happened to me from that point? No. So you got to wait till everybody dies off that has went through that stuff. And they're not, let's take someone like Jesse Jackson or Al Sharpton that people consider to be race peddlers and all of that. Do folks realize how much drama that those two dudes have seen? I mean, how many death threats they've seen literally the worst of white America. Should they forget about it now that the civil rights has been passed? They got to die off. They've seen too much. They have to die off.
Yeah, it's, I think there's that old phrase, the young sharpen their teeth on the bones of the old. And unfortunately, that's going to have to happen. But I think that going back to what we're talking about with freedoms that could be taken away, let's look at what will happen if Joe Biden is in office. I think that when it comes down to him, the freedoms that we're going to see is I don't trust Trump anymore on 2A than I do Joe Biden. But I think what we'll see a lot more is that I really do think that the term plandemic was true. I think whoever's trying to pull Joe's strings, I think that they're going to be using another plandemic in order to suffocate.
Here's what I don't get about as you say, plandemic. A lot of the restrictions, talk about Dr. Fauci and things that people don't like, a lot of that stuff happened under the Trump administration, yet they only blame the liberals and Fauci for it. Trump shut things down. The vaccine came from Trump. Dr. Fauci gave most of his instructions out when Trump was in office. Yet they hold the liberals and Dr. Fauci for all of this stuff that actually happened under the Trump watch.
Yeah, and that's why I think Trump's a little wishy-washy, like when something's politically expedient. But I think over time he kind of started to realize that, oh, this isn't the right thing to do, and you started to see a lot of Fauci being almost like heralded as like some kind of saint, and then people were just blatantly taking his word for it from the Trump administration through the Biden administration.
Right, and that's the problem, though, is that Trump could have taken Dr. Fauci and reappointed him to the HIV task force or something. Trump could have taken him off of the coronavirus task force. He chose to keep going on TV with Dr. Fauci and let Dr. Fauci continue addressing the public. Yet somehow we're going to blame the guy who was only giving advice, because Fauci doesn't write laws. He is an advisor. Trump is the one that controls that stuff. Why not get rid of this guy if he doesn't know what he's doing?
Again, you know what? And here's what I think it is. I think Trump now has the political leeway where if he were to get elected, he would not have another Fauci come in, because he has the political leeway to do that. But again, this is one of the things I call Trump out on a lot, is that you see he kind of moves just slightly enough to be in line with whatever's popular at the time. With Joe Biden, he would, even if it's unpopular, he would just, or rather whoever his handlers are, would just have them immediately agree with someone as draconian and as a Fauci. And it doesn't even have to be Fauci.
I don't see the difference. If whether you're right about Biden, fact is Trump put him on television as well. So even if Biden is as absent-minded as you're making him sound, Dr. Fauci was on television with Trump, by the way. Trump was on TV with him several days, almost about a straight month. And it's crazy because I got a tweet. Oh, this is something different from Marjorie Taylor Greene. I'll address that later about Nancy Pelosi. But you got a lot of folks on the right, including Marjorie Taylor Greene, that suggested Fauci be put up on charges, but she don't hold Trump accountable at all for letting him give the advice she wants to jail him for.
That's why I'm not the hugest Trump supporter. I think it would be better to have Trump than Biden, because I think there's a lot more rights that will be taken away under Biden. And I do think, but the thing is, like I said, I think that Trump was only going along with it because he realized a lot of people have been criticizing him for years, saying, you fired Bolton, you fired these people, you fired all these advisors. And he probably knew if he fires Fauci underneath like this, pandemic, he's gonna really. That doesn't.
I gotta move it on. But what you're saying, in my opinion, doesn't make sense with Trump. You're saying he kept Dr. Fauci on because people might have thought this or that. Trump doesn't come across as somebody who gives a damn what people think. I mean, I don't see it. I mean, Trump doesn't care. If he does or says something that makes people not like him, I don't think he gives a damn. Fuck your feelings. You really think he cares about that stuff? I gotta move it on.
About the right people.
Okay. All right. Fair enough. All right. This dude has too much time. Says, I don't know whose name is that. You guys didn't want to hear from him. How many excuses do we need to make for Trump? Well, some folks believe Trump was the guy, so that's how it works. Tap the screen. Get the likes up to 60,000. Let your thumbs not be lazy on this July 3rd broadcast. Asking that question with July 4th literally being tomorrow. We always talk about freedom. You see what we were talking about with the last guest. Do you believe freedom is on the table with this election? And if so, which candidate is more likely to be taking away freedoms? A lot of folks may believe it's Biden. Some folks may believe it's Trump. What say you? I was mentioning, before we go back to the box, I read a tweet from Marjorie Taylor Greene. You already know it's controversial if it's coming from MTG. She asked this question, sent it out on X, formerly known as Twitter, on X. Would you support Nancy Pelosi being thrown in prison for her actions on January 6th? Marjorie Taylor Greene is suggesting that Nancy Pelosi, out of everybody that participated in on January 6th, it is Nancy Pelosi that should potentially face jail time for January 6th. You hear me laughing? Yeah, I find it humorous. Completely ridiculous. But a lot of folks, obviously following Marjorie Taylor Greene, said yes. Should Nancy Pelosi be, in her words, were thrown in jail? Now, remember, she wants Fauci thrown in jail too, but she said, should Nancy Pelosi be thrown in jail for her actions? I mean, the woman had her office burglarized. She's hiding in the basement of the building, and they're asking, should she go to prison for what happened on January 6th? Clearly a victim of what happened. Wow. Thank you folks for tapping the screen. A very few of you are. The participation is really low here today. Wow. Is the topic that bad? I can't get 60,000 likes. I can't get any participation on the program. Wow. Nancy is the reason why so many of our American soldiers got killed at once. How? How do you, so many of our soldiers, what did Nancy Pelosi do? Hey, bro, I've been watching sometimes and I used to get you wrong, but now I know you're dedicated to this and I appreciate you for your dedication. You're always online. Good job and much respect. Thank you. Most dope bozo. That's a hell of a name you get, but thank you for the compliment. I do appreciate it. So going back to the box, throwing Nancy Pelosi in jail for that. I don't understand it. Good afternoon. Welcome to the program. One of my subscribers, Miss Mo Betta. Good afternoon, Miss Mo Betta. Welcome to the program. Nancy Pelosi in jail. You think Nancy Pelosi screwed it up on January 6th, Miss Mo Betta?
Absolutely not. Some people again like to hear the sound of their own voices.
Yeah.
I didn't. You know what? It's funny because I didn't remember even requesting you.
Yeah,
I was just listening.
Yeah, you breaking up something awful anyway.
I don't remember requesting you.
Oh.
Yeah, I didn't request you, so I don't know what happened.
That's crazy. You were in there. Okay, well, I'm moving on because you got a flaky signal.
They wanted to hear my voice, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, no. They wanted to hear my voice. I'm inside of a grocery store.
All right. Well, I do appreciate you tuning in, Ms. Mobetta. You're always welcome on the program. Enjoy your shopping. Enjoy the Biden prices. Are the Biden groceries affordable?
Yeah, we're eating.
All right.
And guess what? I'm eating, and I don't give food stamps and all that stuff. Like, people really go above and beyond to make it seem like they're starving right now and they're full of shit.
Okay.
So I'm going to just leave it at that.
I like that.
Yeah.
Okay, well, come on back anytime.
Yeah. Okay, I'm going to still listen.
All right, thank you. This Miss Mobetta, always good to talk to her. Hey, somebody said, how much are eggs? I think the day where eggs were ridiculously priced, that's over with. Because, that was one of the big things, because obviously you notice you don't hear Republicans talking about eggs and the price of milk anymore. They're talking about groceries as a whole, but there was a reason, I believe it was the bird flu or something. There was a reason why eggs were so pricey. And they were hammering Biden for it. And then the minute the price of eggs dropped back down to somewhat normal, it just disappeared from the conversation. But eggs are no longer costing $3-4 for a dozen of eggs or whatever it used to cost. And I know that because I went to the grocery store and actually did a video on it some months ago. And look, here's a whole aisle full of eggs for like $1.99 or something a dozen, or 79 cents for jumbo or something like that. Eggs are not costing like that. I got chickens. I don't have to worry about eggs. Fair enough. Some would suggest that more Americans start preparing their own food. Not only does it save you money and prepare you for stuff like this, it's also healthier. I mean, we are a capitalist country. Fact is, even if you favor capitalism, you have to admit capitalism kills. I mean, there's a reason why a lot of our kids, and a lot of us, including yours truly, are obese. People are putting bad shit in the food to make money. Got kids on antidepressants and all of those drugs. Well, people are doing it to make money. So it is what it is. But yeah, if you can grow your own stuff, that's not a bad idea. If you're in a position where you can grow your own stuff, that is not a bad idea. Because in this country, capitalism can put you at odds. I mean, you might be eating pesticides or any damn thing in regards to the food you buy at the grocery store. Looking in the comments, the cost of anything is high now all over the world. People need to stop complaining about that. Well, they're going to complain, but I understand your point is the focus shouldn't be on Biden. If the economies of the world are up, it's crazy to assume that in America everything would be down. And I think that would be more prevalent if Trump got reelected. You would start seeing that, well, we're probably never going to get $2 gas again. I mean, some of the things that I believe folks believe would happen if Trump is reelected would end up being blamed on Democratic cities or Democrat taxes or something like that, because some of that stuff ain't going to happen. Some of this, like crime, for instance. Trump is suggesting that under Biden, crime has got out of hand. The president can't bring down crime. You know, Baltimore's a shithole city, or Milwaukee, I think he called, is horrible. The crime rate is not going to drop under a change in presidents. But he is running on lowering crime. That's not going to happen under the president. Going back to the box, Stay Golden, I love the name, living my life like it's golden. Lower taxes to get the money coming in. If you lower taxes, where does the money that used to go to what do you do to replace the money that was paid in taxes? Stay Golden, good afternoon.
Hey, how you doing?
I'm doing good. Do you believe freedom is on the table?
I believe everything's kind of on the line.
Explain.
Just our way of living, what we're accustomed to, everything's changing.
Wow. Would that be more greatly exaggerated if you vote for one candidate over the other one? In other words, the things you're worrying about, would they be even more blown up depending on who you vote in office?
Well, yeah, I mean, that would play a major role in it, wouldn't you think?
Which candidate would be more detrimental to what you're talking about?
Well, 4 years under Trump, 4 years under Biden, I think we was a lot better off under Trump.
So under Biden, with you answering that freedom is under the table, or better yet, on the table, what freedoms do you fear you're going to lose with another 4 years of Biden?
He's coming after everything. It seems like Biden's wanting the government to have total control to tell you what to say, how to live your life, how much of certain things you can buy.
So you said certain things you can buy. What do you personally believe that Biden?
You can only buy like so much food per month, like on a government kind of funded. I just think that Biden's want the government to have too much control.
Okay, now you're saying that if Biden is reelected, there's a possibility that the government may limit how much food you can buy. Am I hearing that correct?
Well, it is. I mean, it's a possibility. You don't know where they can run with it, really.
Okay, well, I'm trying to figure out, because you said that Biden puts freedom on the table. So I'm asking you, what freedoms are you fearing we may lose? I don't know if I'm quite understanding. What freedoms do you fear Biden may take away?
It'd kind of be like the United States all in one big FEMA camp, kind of, is what I would picture it as.
What you're saying, put all Americans in one big camp.
Yeah.
And what has he done or proposed that leads you to think that this may be a possibility?
Well, after watching the debate last Thursday, I don't know who's running the country, really.
Yeah, I didn't favor it. No, I don't think anybody favored Biden's performance in the debate. But you're talking about putting people in FEMA camps. That I don't know where you're getting that from. Did the debate give you the inclination that that's the goal?
Well, it's like the Democrats all want power. It's like that's all they're concerned with. It's just like these 25 Democrats come out today and said that Biden should step down, in order to serve his country and for our country, Yeah, I agree with you that Democrats want power. I'm assuming that you would understand that Trump and Republicans want power too. I don't disagree with you at all on that. But you mentioned FEMA camps and all of this stuff. I'm trying to figure out what have you heard from Biden or any other Democrat? What's making you say that? It's just like, back in the, 50s and 60s and, all that, they put it like people in FEMA camps, they gave you so much food, it was just it's weird, I guess.
Okay. I mean, I understand they put Japanese Americans in internment camps during World War II. I get the point that it's happened, but I'm trying to figure out, based on what you're saying about Biden, what has Biden said or done?
Biden's let a new group of Americans in this country, and now he wants to take the original people that's been here for a lifetime and, do away with them, or I don't know what his plan is. I've never seen anything like this in my lifetime.
So you
about anything in the history books.
So you're saying that Biden has let people in. I'm assuming you're talking about the immigrants. You're saying he wants to do away with, that was your term, do away with the people in this country. Do away with them how?
I don't know. I mean, I'm not in Biden's head. I can't speak for him. I'm trying to read between the lines just like everybody else.
Right. I mean, I get that point, but I'm trying to, and I understand you're not in his head. I totally understand that. But what I'm trying to find out is what's drawing you in this direction to say that you believe Biden wants to do away with the people that are here. What have you heard him propose? What has he said? You're throwing out some pretty strong phrases. It's got to be coming from somewhere.
I mean, it's just what it's one of the many conclusions that I've come up with.
So you come up with...
Why is he letting like a large millions and millions of people in our country want them to come in and vote and, what we've earned to get where we are, he's just giving it all to them and letting them come in. And, we fought, we worked hard, we put into this country, and he's just letting people come in that has no ties. Yeah. Just have our luxuries, I guess.
I don't disagree with you that a good argument could be made that Biden has been crappy on the border. You and I could be on the same page with that. But when you start talking,
constantly lies. I've looked at Biden's history. I've looked at Trump's history. I've seen, I'm not going to let hate decide the future of our country.
Okay. Now, when you said Biden, after your research has led you to believe that Biden constantly lies, do you see Trump as an honest politician?
I haven't really seen Trump do. I'm sure everybody's got their mistakes. Nobody's perfect in this world, but he's done pretty good in his lifetime, I think.
Yeah, but I'm not asking you. I mean, a lot of folks believe Trump did a really good.
He's a politician because he just started in 2016.
Right. A lot of people believe Trump did really good as president. I'm not arguing with you now. I'm asking you, do you see him as honest? Do you see him as an honest politician?
I don't see it any other way because Biden's weaponized justice system is, dug into the deepest, darkest closets that he's had and still hasn't found anything to charge him with.
Now, when you say Biden weaponized the justice system, like with the other statements you made, I'm going to ask you right off the bat, what leads you to believe that the system was weaponized by Biden himself? What have you seen?
It's all the evidence that's out there for.
Give me some examples of that evidence. Give me some examples.
What was it? Was it 51 FBI agents that the whistleblowers, they come out and said that the laptop wasn't real. They signed a paper saying that it wasn't real, and actually it was.
Yeah, but the laptop. The laptop doesn't have anything to do with Trump's indictments, do it?
I mean, you put it all together. I mean, yeah, it all comes back to the White House. So.
Okay. So you believe that Biden is weaponizing the system to go after Trump?
I do, yes.
Okay. But you don't have any solid connections. You just believe it.
Have you ever seen any cases like what he just went through?
No, I mean, I've seen no, but that just.
You're going to tell me that's a legit case? Why he just got charged with?
I haven't seen any cases like what Hunter Biden went through either. Does that mean that Biden went after his kid too? What Hunter Biden got charged with? That ain't normal.
It was a Democratic judge filled with Democratic juries.
Okay, but you said
it was brought on by a guy that said that he was going to get Trump,
Okay.
Like Letitia James, she won on saying that she was going to get Trump. Why is all these people after one man?
Well, what are you saying? Because they ran a campaign. Letitia James, you're pointing out, you believe it's wrong to campaign and promise of going after somebody?
Well, yeah, they found him innocent. Yeah. Most of the attorneys, have you ever seen a president be charged with anything?
No, I've never seen a president do some of the things Trump has done, though, too. But I have to ask you, in regards to
what's he done? He paid a lawyer fee?
No, I mean the whole Stormy Daniels thing, having documents at his house. I'm going back. I don't have any access to this stuff.
Joe Biden also had documents in his house when he didn't even have access to them or wasn't supposed to have access to them.
I'm not opposed to looking into Biden as well. You asked me, have I seen anything from Trump that I have never seen before? I'm just giving you my points.
All presidents have took documents on all of them.
Okay, I'm just giving you my points, though. That's all I'm saying.
This ain't nothing new. They want to just bring certain things out to light and try to pin this on one man because he's threatening their way of life.
I mean, I would also point to you what happened on January 6th. I've never seen it happen before.
Nancy Pelosi's took credit for that. Donald Trump.
But Nancy Pelosi isn't the reason all those people were there. The whole inviting of the people there, that's because of Trump. I've never seen a president do that before.
Well, he also called in 15 to 20,000 National Guards.
Right.
Nancy Pelosi
right. And I've never seen a president say an election was stolen. Call in a bunch. Hold on, hang on. I've never seen the president say an election was stolen. Call in thousands of National Guard to protect the people he invited in because he think they may be violent. I've never seen that happen before.
Now, have you seen all the videos, the ones where the people were escorting certain groups of people to certain rooms? Have you seen all the videos?
I've seen all the videos, and I've never seen that happen under any other president.
We don't want to talk about them escorting certain groups of people to certain rooms and giving them weapons and all that.
Well, why don't Trump come forward then and say that the Capitol Police was in on it?
Trump, you could all read what Trump said. Go to the Capitol and protest peacefully. Everybody goes and protests. He can't control and then Nancy Pelosi called off the National Guard that he called in, and then video shows suspicious activity.
Okay, well, I'm gonna have to move it on shortly, but let me ask you, because you mentioned he said go protest peacefully. What was he telling them to go protest?
I guess for the election, wasn't it?
Yeah. Where's the evidence that what they were protesting actually was a legitimate protest? Where's the evidence that the election was stolen?
Where was the evidence? What?
I asked you, what were they protesting? You said the election. Where is the evidence that what they were protesting about the election is actually accurate?
Well, at the time, wasn't it, he was thinking that the Democrats cheated in the election.
Where's the evidence that he had a reason to think that?
I think every president has thought that. Well, the close ones. They say the ones within a marginal, count. They want to, recount it. But if it's a landslide victory, then there's no reason.
Well, and Trump did say it was a landslide. He said he won by a landslide. You believe that?
I do, yeah.
Okay. All right. Well, listen, you always free to come back on it. Real quick.
Millions more people going for him right now than he did back in 2020.
Repeat that?
I said, I think Trump's got more.
Unfortunately, you know what happens on the program sometimes. I can't control the TikTok gods. They dropped my last guest. I don't believe in block banning or censoring anybody. You know I've run a free speech program, but I can't control the TikTok gods. So whatever happened, they didn't like what he was saying, and he got removed. He's always welcome to come back to the program. Understand that, sir. You can come back anytime, but I can't control. YouTube doesn't do that. And I like the fact that YouTube, but I don't have any live guests on YouTube, at least not yet. So I can't bring people up. But I don't like the fact that TikTok does take some folks down. And that's just why in the comments, Miss Mobetta said he was lying. I don't necessarily agree with everything he said, but I do believe he has the right to say it. Mowgli says Republicans have shown they will flip-flop for power. True. That is true. Nikki Haley, I would submit one Nikki Haley as Exhibit A. And the Democrats do it too, though. I mean, Kamala was saying that Biden was a racist, and look where she's at now. But yeah, with Trump, we were just speaking about January 6th. When you listen to what the Republican Party was saying about that, the night of January 6th, up to and including Mitch McConnell, they were all blaming Trump for that. As Mowgli points out, flip-flopping for power, they've all changed their opinion on January 6th, and none of them have really presented any solid explanation for why they are speaking so differently now than they did on January 6th. They just changed their mind and moved on about it. So I do believe there's some flip-flopping there. However, I don't believe the Democrats are the Democrats flip-flop too, is what I'm about to say. Anyhow, looking in the comments, ex-Brazil president that followed Trump's lead even led a little coup. Yeah, that did happen. Led a little coup. Then he lost. Indicted, right? Yeah, there was an attempted coup down there in Brazil. Wow. You know, the crazy thing is, I'm not going to say that Trump is going to try to do something like that, but the folks that Trump is mostly favorable to, they aren't really pro-democracy. I mean, he's been favorable to Putin, the leader of Hungary, Kim Jong-un of North Korea, Brazil. I mean, he isn't very favorable to folks who are pro-democracy. I mean, that is something to bring up. He's favorable to a lot of folks that are anything but for democracy. Looking in the comments. So we will have Biden take cognitive tests, but that guy was okay. In regards to Biden taking the cognitive test, by the way, tap the screen, get your boy up to about 80,000. Numbers have been a bit low today, and it's certainly affecting the program as a whole. Maybe this topic just sucks if you ask some folks. But I strongly believe that Biden should take a cognitive test. In my opinion, both of these gentlemen, Trump and Biden, have pushed the envelope so much that once they're both gone, there should be bipartisan support for some laws to prevent them from doing what they did. Biden's case, it is indeed the cognitive test. I think that they should pass a law that any president, let's say 55 years of age or older, should have to take a cognitive. In fact, any president, don't care if you're 45, anybody can be out of their damn mind. Any president running for office should have to take a cognitive exam. Now, I see in the comments, Leigh Holmes said he would pass it, though. I don't feel confident about that. You're saying that if Biden took a cognitive exam, he would. I don't feel confident about it. Maybe he would, but my money is on there would be some problem areas, such as maintaining train of thought. I don't necessarily believe he'd pass it, but you obviously disagree. But I do believe Biden's a anti-Biden rule in the future will probably be, we need to require presidents to take a cognitive exam. Once Biden and Trump is out of the picture, I think you'll get bipartisan support on it. That's the anti-Biden rule. The anti-Trump rules, plural, are numerous. I can think of at least 4. Number 1 being, if you commit a crime while you're in office serving this country, you can't pardon yourself for it. Now, clearly the Supreme Court has ruled to the point where Trump probably ain't committed any crimes anymore while he was in office. But the idea was we were debating whether you could pardon yourself. That should be off the table. If you commit a crime while serving in any other form of office, you're generally held accountable for it. So the idea you could pardon your own self, no, that should be outlawed. That's rule number 1. Rule number 2, if you are up on major crimes, in this case felonies, where you've been accused of committing some major crimes to the point where you have been officially indicted for them, I believe that should probably make you have to at least suspend your campaign until that is hashed out. Now, we can say what the feds or some of these other organizations would then just start making up charges against people and putting their whole damn career at risk. I don't buy that. If you're up on major crimes, such as stuff like treason and things like that, selling out your country, until that is settled, you shouldn't be able to run for president. That's rule number 2. Rule number 3, obviously, if you're convicted of it, if you got multiple felonies on you, you can't vote in a lot of states. You can't even work at McDonald's if you got felonies. I do believe that should stop you from running for president if you got a bunch of felonies. Once again, these are anti-Trump rules. We talked about the anti-Biden rules. And last but not least, this was so insane. I don't understand why it ever was even up for discussion. Nevertheless, apparently this is legal. You can run this country. You can get reelected and be president while you are actively incarcerated. How the hell is that allowed? So I do believe Trump has opened up the door to show us we need to make some changes. It won't happen while Trump is in the running for president. I get it, because a lot of folks want Trump to win. But I think, as I said before in the program, if you go back 10 years in the past, during when Hillary Clinton was running, I think all MAGA would have agreed a felon can't be president. You can't be president while you're incarcerated. They would agree with every damn thing I said. And I believe 10 years in the future, most people will agree with it as well. But right now, because Trump is in the running, they don't agree with this stuff. But yeah, you can't run the country if you're incarcerated. And as we pointed out, with a bunch of felonies, there are a lot of countries that don't even let you in. So I don't know how that works for Trump. I mean, you can't own a gun, but you can have the nuclear football. I mean, some of this stuff is really, really contradictory. So I do believe that in the future, they probably will have to straighten some of that stuff out, because Trump has shown us how contradictory some of it can be. Looking in the comments, though, we will not have a country in 10 years. You think America's that close to destruction? 10 years from now, we won't have a country. Wow. Trump is still getting special privileges. I think all presidents get special privileges to some degree. Going to the box. Gary, good afternoon. Welcome to the program. Is freedom on the table? And if so, who is threatening to take it? Good afternoon, Gary.
Yes, sir.
Hey.
I want to comment on something that you said a while ago.
Sure.
About the felonies and stuff.
Yeah.
And the indictments.
Sure.
It is so easy to indict a person on any kind of a charge.
You can indict a ham sandwich. I've heard it.
You got that right.
Right.
You got that absolutely right.
Now, can you imagine? I'll let you continue, but let me just tell you this. Imagine going to apply for a job, telling your potential employer, I got a bunch of felonies, but they're bullshit, and explaining that to your potential employer, what you just said. You can indict a ham sandwich. You think they're going to hire you?
Well, no, but any personnel officer or that's responsible for hiring and process will go back and will look at what those felonies are. You've got your white-collar crimes. And let me give you an example. Let me give you an example of what I'm talking about.
Sure.
I know a man that's convicted of first-degree murder, was sentenced to 10 years in prison, and that was it.
Okay. What's your point?
I know another man who pissed off the justice system. They went after him, convicted him he had a business that he sold shares in the business. They convicted him of 3 counts of selling securities without a license. Granted. But they sentenced him to 25 years on each count to be served consecutive.
So what's your point?
The whole point behind the matter is it's all according to who's in power, how it's sentenced.
Okay, let me respond to that.
Hold on. Let me.
Okay, moving on. You got a long point. Go ahead.
You're talking about New York City. Now, if Donald Trump, if they'd brought them charges in another state, do you think he would have been convicted?
Depends on the state. Depends on the court.
Exactly. It depends on the jurors. Correct.
Right. Okay, let me respond to some of this. Okay, first of all, when I asked you, would a potential employer be willing to hire you even though you got a bunch of felonies and you're saying they're a bunch of bullshit, and you said, well, they would go back and go back and see what those felonies are. Really? If an employer is looking to fill a position, a lot of people are submitting resumes. You really think they're going to take one person that has a bunch of felonies and then go and do all this homework on that person? They're going to throw your resume out. And the idea that, well, my felonies I got over sentenced. You realize how many folks, hell, we could bring up Joe Biden's crime bill or Kamala Harris's 3-strike laws that in California. You realize how many, hold on, hang on. You realize how many Americans get railroaded by the justice system? Trump himself was a big fan of stop and frisk. Trump himself was okay with that. He wanted some innocent African Americans to be hung for a crime they didn't commit. Now all of a sudden the justice system mistreats him and you're supposed to view it differently? Your turn. Go ahead.
I agree with you 100% on what you're saying. But you got to use it in the context of what's going on. It's just like they said, you was talking about earlier about the weaponization of the justice system.
Mm-hmm.
Okay? Yes, I believe that Biden has weaponized his justice system.
Yeah, but
Okay.
hold on. Wait a minute. Hold on. Gary, when you got felonies on your record, nobody looks at stuff in context. If the police pull you over and you got a bunch of felonies on your record, they're not going to go through your record and see where you railroaded and mistreated by the government. Trump is the only one that's demanding that special privilege. If you got stuff on your record, our society treats you like shit because it's there. They don't go, all of this context stuff, that doesn't happen for anybody else but Trump.
Let me put this in words. Let me try to get where I get my point across.
Go ahead.
Okay. If you weaponize your Department of Justice against a person, oh, that is your car.
I'm listening. Go ahead.
You weaponize your Department of Justice against an individual. Okay. You brought up about, well, if Biden weaponized the Department of Justice, then it would mean that he had done it against his own son. No, he had a sweetheart deal, was fixing to sign it. And the judge looked into the deal more and said, hey, no, this don't work. This don't work.
So if the system was weaponized by Joe Biden, the judge wouldn't, the fact that a judge could get up there and throw his sweetheart deal out of the water shows that the system wasn't weaponized. That judge would not exist.
No, it does not show that it was not weaponized. It does not. Now, a judge, once it gets before a court and the judge throws it out, then yeah, that can show that.
Is the judge not part of the DOJ? I mean, when you say he weaponized the Department of Justice, so the judges are not part of that?
They are part of that, but here's the deal. A judge is appointed for a lifetime. They have a lifetime appointment. And that is, the purpose behind that is to keep them from being on one side or the other. But if I tell my Justice Department, okay, I want Trump on something. I don't care what it is, find something.
Find me 11,000 votes.
They had already just turned down the opportunity for this what he was convicted of. The Justice Department turned it down, and the DA's office turned it down. Bragg had already turned it down once and said, no, there's nothing there. Now, he announced that he was going to run for president, and they brought it all back up.
I gotta say, Gary, I think you're picking and choosing parts of this to make it make sense. If Biden weaponized the justice system, you're not gonna have a judge step up and say the deal we gave your son is too nice. Then the system ain't weaponized. You clearly don't have control of. If they could do that to your own kid, hold on, hang on. If they could do that to hold on, you're going too far. If they could do that to his own son, he clearly doesn't have the system weaponized. Maybe a few people in the system like Biden, but the fact that a judge was able to throw his deal out and basically convict his son shows he don't have the system weaponized.
But you're looking at two different branches in a department.
Oh, so
an investigative branch. You're looking at an investigative branch, and you're looking at a judicial branch. See, the thing about it, now it's all falling under the one Department of Justice.
What? So if the judge is part of the judicial branch, the judge that convicted, or better yet, led to Hunter Biden being convicted, you're saying that Biden hasn't weaponized the judicial branch? Is that what you're saying?
No, what I'm talking about.
You're confusing me.
You're confusing me. And because you're taking words that I'm saying and twisting them.
No, I'm asking you questions. I'm asking you, how could his son been convicted if he has the system weaponized?
It's easy because there's no turning back about what the man done. Absolutely none. Everybody has seen that. Everybody has seen what.
So he has the system weaponized, but he don't have enough power to stop his own son from being convicted because, as you say, it's easy.
You watch and see if he don't turn around and pardon Hunter. Either he'll pardon him or his successor. If they don't,
that ain't got nothing. That's a right. That's a presidential right. That ain't got nothing to do with weaponizing the system. He has a right to pardon him. That's part of the job. He can pardon who he wants.
Okay. Do you not think they might think, well, because everybody's looking at it saying we're weaponizing it. What we need to do, we need to use this sacrificial lamb right here.
You wanted to sacrifice his son to appease MAGA. The only people. Hold on.
Let me finish.
You're throwing so much out there.
Because we can turn around and give him a pardon.
Sacrifice his son. MAGA, Gary, the only people saying that Biden has weaponized the DOJ is primarily MAGA. So what you're saying is that Biden should sacrifice his son to appease MAGA from believing that he weaponized the system. What's the purpose of Biden trying to appease MAGA? They're not going to like him no matter what.
Well, I understand your point.
You think Trump, let's say Trump had a child that actually did what Biden did, or Hunter Biden did. You think Trump would let his child be incarcerated? You don't think Trump would pardon his own kid?
I honestly don't think he would.
Okay. But he's going to pardon. You think Trump would not pardon his own kid, but he's making albums with the January 6th protesters?
Well, that's something else. I'm
Okay.
a little.
I get it.
January 6th protesters. They've already proved that a bunch of them were Antifa.
Really?
Yeah.
I haven't seen that proof.
I have. I've seen a bunch of proof.
I'd like you to
see. Dressed up as Antifa over here, then changing out of clothes and putting on Trump gear and joining in that protest and going after the guy that had the camera that showed them.
So do you think MAGA did anything wrong at all on January 6th?
Oh, yes.
Like what?
Absolutely.
Like what?
Anybody that went inside that building was in the wrong.
Okay. So who's Trump trying to pardon?
I don't agree that the sentencing part of it make the sentence fit the crime. Okay. Just walking in a building, no, they don't deserve to be put in prison for 5, 6, 7 years.
Yeah, I will tell you this. And
breaking in a house.
I will tell you this, Gary. There's a lot of folks in America that get over sentenced. I wish Trump would have came into other neighborhoods and looked out for folks that got over sentenced like he did those protesters. They're not the only ones that's gotten really harsh sentences in America. I mean, these are the only people you're going to speak up for? What about all these other people?
Trump did. He went back and pardoned a lot of people while he was president that were that he felt was sentenced wrong. Okay. There were a lot of people he was sentenced wrong, blacks as well as whites.
Right.
But here's the thing about it: what you're seeing the Republicans and the Democrats are both against Trump.
Why?
Going to Congress was not meant to be a job. When it was designed, you were to go serve a couple of years.
Why didn't when Trump was
somebody else take your place? Hold on.
When Trump when Trump was president, why didn't he try to propose term limits? If what you're saying is true, Trump never said nothing about actually doing term limits. He just let you guys yell out at the rally. He didn't say nothing about doing it. Why is that?
He went to Mitch McConnell. Mitch McConnell said, "No, it'll never pass. It'll never pass." That's because these guys are making money off of it.
Okay.
I believe you ought to throw every dang-burn one of them out and start over.
Right.
And let people serve no more. A senator no more than 2 terms, and a congressman no more than 4 terms.
Okay. All right, well, Gary, I do got to move it on. Listen, anytime you want to come through, man, we don't...
Do you disagree with that?
There's a lot more I would have to talk to you about on it. For instance, I believe experience is valuable. In 2 terms, you're not going to become very experienced as a politician. So we can talk about it, but I do got to move it on.
All right, thank you.
Anytime. Come on back anytime. Looking in the comments, this is ridiculous how... what does that say to her? Felicia says, this is ridiculous how people believe crazy things. And listen, I believe in free speech. Me and my last caller don't agree on anything, fair enough, but I do believe he has a right to speak. I believe you guys have a right to tap the screen if I can get you guys to do that. Take the program right on up to 100,000. Same on YouTube. Feel free to smash that like button. Monday through Friday, 1,300 hours is when you'll find us here. Monday through Friday, weekdays is when we're here. We may do a 4th of July show tomorrow. Debating it, but also, while we're on this one, certainly tap the screen. YouTube as well. Get the likes up. Perhaps on YouTube, we might be able to make 100 if you guys smash that like button. I just lost my damn pen before I move on to the next guest. Looking in the comments, you have free speech. Just watch what you say. Yeah, unfortunately, TikTok is like that. You got to be cautious. American Bidenomics. All right, well, I keep telling you folks, and Gary, thank you for that hat and mustache. Yeah! My last guest showed the program some support. Haven't been seeing much of that today. Thank you, Gary. And by the way, Gary, look, like I said, we don't have to agree on anything. Come back anytime. Moving the program on, King Cobra, good afternoon. Let's not fight tomorrow. Said, why do we have to fight? We're not having a fight. We're having a discussion. We meet here every day. Many of you do, and I appreciate you coming here. And we don't fight. We discuss the issues. You don't find many forums like this where you got everybody in one location engaging in dialogue. So I don't see it as fighting. I believe this is necessary up to and including in Washington. And I think we showed that it can be done. If they would do it this way in Washington, I think we could get a lot further. I think it's too much censorship out there, which is why I don't do it on the program here. And somebody in the comments, Susie said, I agree with Bidenomics. There you go. He funded millions of criminals for housing illegals. He funded millions of criminals for housing illegals and left our vets homeless. Clean your own house before you worry about other houses. Mr. Howard, I'm assuming you're referring to Biden, stating that he funded millions of criminals. I'm assuming the millions of criminals are the illegals coming into countries, or because the right puts illegal aliens, which is people that just run across the border without stopping at any port of entry, just run into the country. The people coming here requesting asylum, the right puts them all in the same category. So the people who are here on asylum requests are illegals to most of the right. But I'll read your comment. He funded millions of criminals, so those are the undocumented, for housing illegals and left our vets homeless. Clean your own house before you worry about other houses. The issue I have with that, Mr. Howard, is there is no desire to clean our own house. Before Biden came into office and the border issues you're talking about existed, we still had homelessness. Before we started sending money to the Ukraine, we still had all of the problems we have now. There has not been any desire in this country to help out the poor. In fact, folks on your side of the aisle call that free shit. If you start helping out the homeless, well, he's on drugs, and if you give him a place to stay, he's going to sell it to somebody to buy drugs. He ain't really trying to work. I mean, you're not a fan of cleaning our own house. Any policy that might actually clean our own house, you're going to call it giving people free shit. You're going to suggest that that person who's struggling figure it out like you did. So when we say, instead of looking out for other countries, why don't we take care of ourselves first? That means we'll never do anything for anybody else because we're not taking care of ourselves either. All of the things, even if I go to work every damn day and do what's right, you're not a fan of paying for me to go to school to get better or even getting a minimum wage increase. And damn it, I'm doing everything right and you're still not a fan of me. God forbid I try to ask for food stamps or something like that. So take care of ourselves. We don't want to do that. I don't know where you're getting that from. James Phillips says, we already have a way to term limits. Just vote for somebody else. I really love that. I've said it before myself. The likes of Kentucky Senator Mitch McConnell, he's been in office forever. Liberals are not putting Mitch McConnell back in office. Republicans are not reelecting Nancy Pelosi over and over again. If you want term limits, you already have them. Just don't vote for the person. If you claim to be for smaller government, less intervention, as a Republican, you should never be for term limits. Why would you want the federal government to tell you who you can and can't vote for? You can already do that. If you don't like the Republicans serving over and over again, just don't vote for them. You don't need the feds to come in and outlaw you doing it. You have that power now. That sounds more like the liberals who are more favorable to big government. Now all of a sudden the right wants the government to limit who they can vote for. That doesn't kind of match the Republican mindset, in my opinion. Term limits don't work anyway, says Jared Barry. I don't know if they work or not, but I would tell you this. With Mitch McConnell preventing Obama from his Supreme Court pick, Mitch McConnell prevented Trump from being impeached because many suggest that if you had to do it again, they would probably impeach Trump. So Mitch McConnell's done a lot. If you had a new senator that did not know the ropes as well, that might have not happened. Nancy Pelosi has raised a fortune for Democratic candidates. There is a lot of Democratic candidates now serving that can blame Nancy Pelosi for all of the campaign money they received and what got them elected. There is benefit to having somebody that has experience in office for as long as some of these folks serve. Trump, not a typical politician. We want somebody that has not been in Washington forever. Well, Trump has shown what inexperience can do. Even if you favor how Trump ran the country, he had to fire his whole administration. That's inexperience that leads to that. Why are you constantly hiring people, finding out they suck and having to fire them? That's inexperience that leads to that. Why did you promise to build a wall, drain the swamp, things like that most people now realize can never be accomplished? Inexperience. So there is benefit to having somebody that knows the ropes, because an experienced politician would know, I'm not going to be able to build a wall needing both the House and Senate to give me approval, while also calling these folks assholes and saying I'm going to drain the swamp. I promised to drain the swamp, and now I just woke up and realized I need these people to do what I'm going to do in office. You can't do both. So inexperience leads to that. Jason Phillips says term limits just ensure our representatives to be bought cheaper. I like that. That's a good point. If I know I can only serve, because the Congress is 2 years? I can only be in Congress 4 years, and they're gonna kick me out. I better make as much money as I can, because that's it. I got to go back to the private sector. I agree with James. If you have term limits, you may actually increase the amount of corruption because they know they only got a small time to be there. Going back to the box, Miami Luxury. Good afternoon. Welcome to the program. The same people in office for 40 years is what's killing this country. Same people voting for him. Same people voting for him. You want to take away people's voting rights because they can't control themselves at the ballot box? They can't control themselves. They keep voting for the same damn guy over and over again. So you need the federal government to come in here and remove the name from the ballot so they don't keep checking it. That what you're saying? Bird dog, I said I meet you while volunteering at the, I don't know what that means. No one over the age of 65 should hold any political office, elected or appointed. Why? I don't agree with that. The senior voting bloc is the biggest, most reliable voting bloc there is, the senior citizens. If you limit the age of the voting bloc, a lot of seniors are going to feel like nobody cares about us. We're putting people in office that don't know what it's like to be a senior, don't know what we're going through. I don't agree with that. There's a lot of very functional seniors. I believe in a cognitive exam. If the person passes the cognitive exam, now you could have it more frequently, like when you start driving and you're 80, 90 years old. They make you take a driving test every damn year. I would agree with that, but I don't believe you should ban folks over 65. The box is problematic. New shirt and chain, that fits on point. I appreciate that, Keith. Let me see what I got here in the box. I'm having problems bringing people up. It's just ruined the program today. But I do appreciate those who are supporting and rolling. Let's try Austin. Good afternoon. Welcome to the show, Austin. Don't know what's happening there. They have to get an A in the cognitive exam like Trump. I don't think Trump would even get an A because Trump doesn't lose his train of thought over and over again like Biden does, but he does do things like confuse Nancy Pelosi and Nikki Haley, confuse somebody accusing him of sexual assault with his own damn ex-wife, confuse when the airplane was invented with Civil War era conflicts, suggesting that the Civil War soldiers were defending airports some 100 years before the invention of the airplane. I think you said Frederick Douglass is still alive. I mean, I don't know if Trump would pass the test either. I think he'd do better than Biden, but I'm not sure Trump would pass the test either. I'm just giving you off the top of my head several things that Trump has said that he doesn't face the same accountability as Biden. Biden says a lot more shit. I'm not arguing that. But there's no shortage of crazy things Trump has said either. They're just not holding him accountable for it. He confused Nikki Haley and Nancy Pelosi quite a bit. So I don't know. And I see in the comments, this is a funny one. Eon said sarcasm. Cognitive exams are not graded with letter grades. No, pass or fail. Pass or fail. Simple as that. The subject, like what HURR said about Biden. It seems like what her said that was written off as a Republican hit job, that sounded like that was pretty damn accurate when he said he wasn't going to indict Biden because Biden comes across as a bumbling old man and he would probably make it hard to get him in court. Sounds like that was probably true. Because if the way Biden talks now, trying to convict him sounds like he would go in court sounding like Ron Jeremy. Some of you folks know who Ron Jeremy is, I'm sure. If Ron Jeremy is the same way he was going to charge him with rape or something like that, and like this guy don't even know where the hell he's at. Biden does sound like you get in court and you're forgetting trains of thought like that and things. Yeah, he probably wouldn't be able to convict the guy. He probably would not be able to. Going back to the box, stick the ruler. I'm having a hellified trouble bringing up guests. Wow. Don't know what's going on. I'd vote for a pickle before Trump. I had somebody tell me earlier today. I saw him say this in another live. I'm going to ask you guys by way of yes or no. Do you feel the same way? Yes or no in the comments. This person said, Biden could go in the middle of Fifth Avenue wearing shitty diapers, screaming for his mommy, and I would still vote for him over Trump. By way of yes or no, is that your mindset? That you would vote for Biden in the middle of Fifth Avenue wearing shitty diapers, screaming for his mommy? Because for folks who believe that Biden's poor performance at the debate helped Trump, I would submit to you all the yeses you're seeing. It's pretty clear that there are far more Americans concerned with Trump than Biden's cognitive abilities. So if Biden stays in the race, you may find Trump and many folks that identify as MAGA saying, how could I lose to a guy who's, out of his mind? There's no way this election was held properly. There's no way I would be able to lose to a man that can't speak. I'm telling you, based on the comments I'm seeing, Biden could be dead and he'd probably get at least 30% of the vote. Deceased. It is the dislike of Trump is that great. Keep in mind, long after she suspended her campaign, Nikki Haley was still getting 25% of the Republican vote. There's a lot of folks that don't like Trump. I'm not saying Trump's going to lose, but that is something that should not be ignored, is that a large portion of Republicans were voting for Nikki Haley months after she got out the race. There are some never Trumpers. Are we to believe that all of that was Democrats showing up to Republican polling places and voting? I don't buy it. If the race is over with, Nikki Haley is no longer in it, so you can't really use her as a weapon against Trump. Anybody showing up and voting for Nikki Haley under those conditions, that's a Republican. Ain't no Democrat gonna go down there and waste their time doing that, knowing it has no meaning to it. So I just want to point that out. Trump may win, but don't ignore the unfavorable numbers being off the chain that's happening. Looking in the comments, somebody said that's because Democrats don't think straight. Or they're blinded by the ways of Trump. Maybe Trump is what's causing them to act like that. I'm just speculating. He said I'm having so much trouble with the damn box. Jonathan Young, thank you for the super chat. I do appreciate that. Jesse Lee Peterson said July is White History Month. Oh my God. What is your thought on that? I think it's a great idea because us white folks don't have a month. I love it. And I'll read your other comment there, James Phillips. White History Month. Well, they don't call televisions color anymore because they're all color. You don't call a network, white entertainment television. Like there's a BET. You wouldn't call a network white entertainment television or White History Month because, like they're all kind of like that. Like if you made or created a black and white TV, for you guys who are old enough to remember black and white TVs, it would say black and white on the box. Color TVs don't say color on the box because you assume they're all in color. So you're not going to hear white entertainment television or White History Month because you kind of assume it's already that anyway. Most of the holidays and things like that are already kind of named that way. So you don't need to call it White History Month. When we talk about white history all the time, black history is the time, okay, we only reserve a small period of time for it, but July 4th, July itself being White History Month, that's kind of humorous. Obviously, July 4th, Independence Day, is a white man's holiday. I know some folks are not going to like that. Novocaine, yeah! Tap the screen, get the likes up to about 110K. Just a slower program today. I don't know why, but thank you folks that are tapping the screen. The very few of you that are doing it. This is where Juneteenth came in. I'll go down this alley for a short time because I know I'm going to piss off some few guests, particularly my beloved Maga. But obviously, July 4th, Independence Day, the day we celebrate freedom, was not designed for black people. I mean, there's no way to deny that. 1776, black people didn't get freedom until almost 100 years later, yet the holiday was there, or the day was still there. So clearly, July 4th never was designed to be a day of freedom for African Americans. We just started calling it that. So I'm not going to hate on Juneteenth because that is the day when freedom actually did happen. I know a lot of folks are like, why the hell would we need Juneteenth? Well, I mean, it is what it is. But July 4th, hopefully we can all celebrate and enjoy the holiday. At this point, you're free. It's long history. It is what it is. But White History Month, I thought that was kind of humorous. We weren't here at that time. Bullshit. Phil, you telling me black people weren't in America in 1776? Slavery didn't exist at that point. Where are you getting that from? What book are you reading? Slavery goes back well before 1776. What are you talking about? Unless you're saying the citizens who are here now weren't there. But you weren't here during biblical times either. You still celebrate Easter and Christmas. Do you need to be there? Are you suggesting that the holidays only should apply to people who were living during that time? You would get rid of every holiday during that. I wasn't here when Martin Luther King was around. Get rid of that one too, huh? Wasn't here. I've never seen it before. Florida educated. You guys are wild. Let me try to box one more time. I don't want to be bloviating to you guys forever. I'm trying to bring people up. It's not me trying to talk. I'm actually trying to bring people up, but the mic or the box is acting funny. Keaton, good afternoon. Welcome to the program. Let me cook, says Harry. Oh, Shilson. I forgot to look you up too, man. Thank you for entering Patriot Level. James Phillips on YouTube. Appreciate that. James Phillips also said, issue with the cognitive exam is the same as literacy for voting. Nah, I don't agree. You could have a cognitive exam that all folks get to input on and make a decision if it's a legitimate exam. The literacy exam was designed to keep African Americans from voting, knowing that they've been denied an education and most of them can't read. So, well, we're going to let blacks vote. You just got to pass this test so you can vote, knowing that they've been brought up. Most schools won't let them in. I don't think the cognitive exam fits on the same level because now we're in an environment where everybody can come to the table, have a seat. You could have a cognitive exam and have everybody sit around the table and pick apart what's fair, what's not, and make it so that everybody agrees on it. So I don't put it, I get your point. It's well stated, but I just disagree from that point. Jonathan Young says July 4th is Independence Day, not black or white. No, but when we declared independence from the British, which is what that day is about, black people did not get any independence at all. Okay, you've left the British. I'm still out here in the field, master. I see you celebrating that we're free from the British. I still got to work for your ass, though. It meant nothing to the black people that were in this country. You know, yeah, me and my wife are celebrating. Go in the kitchen and cook us some shit. And then go back out in the field and finish that cotton off. It meant nothing to black people during the time. It's as simple as that. So, no, it wasn't meant for black people. Looking at the comments. We'll move the program on. Somebody says, great analysis. Thank you. Appreciate that. Let me go ahead and bring up the man, the one and only Harry. Hopefully Harry comes up. Really problematic. There we go, finally. Thank you, Alter Ego. Appreciate the hat and mustache. So what do you think? What am I getting wrong here? Independence Day, is that a holiday for everybody?
Yeah, I think Americans are, black people are Americans. I do believe that. Yeah.
But that holiday has a date when it came around. I mean, July 4th, 1776. Were African Americans free on that day?
I don't know. Some of them did fight in the war.
That ain't what I'm asking you. They fought in the Confederate War, too. For the Confederates. That don't mean they're free.
Free as in what? They weren't, all, working in the,
I mean, you had Jewish people, you had Jewish folks during World War II forced to fight on the side of Hitler. Fighting the war don't got nothing to do with freedom. Sometimes you can be forced to do something.
Yeah, I don't know. I wasn't really there. Okay. I can't say.
All right. So you're not for sure if blacks were free on July 4th, 1776. You're still kind of baffled about that?
I don't know if I wouldn't say all of them, but I wouldn't say for certain every single black person.
I don't even drink it. You making me dizzy as hell. You spending so hard. You don't know if black people July 4th, 1776.
No, I'm sure you could point to certain examples. Yeah, I would concede to that, but I can't say for certain that every single black person in America wasn't or was in chattel slavery.
Okay. You make a point
on that one.
Okay, you make a point about them being in chattel slavery or not, but you would also admit the era of Jim Crow when nobody was slaves, that wasn't exactly free, right?
Yeah, I don't know. The black people did do better under that, though. Like, just talking about...
yeah, they did better than slavery. They did better than slavery, but they weren't free.
No, they're doing better under Jim Crow than they did currently. Like, when it comes to, like, families and, I think, earnings. When it comes to, like, the community, crime levels.
You think black people... You think black people...
These are just facts. The crime rate wasn't as high.
You said earnings. You mentioned earnings.
That might not be true.
That might
the amount of family, the employment might have been is what it was, but the amount of marriages that stayed together, the divorce rate was a lot better.
Well, hold on, hang on a second. You're pointing out that the marriage rate, the marriage success rate, was better for blacks under Jim Crow. I would submit to you it was better for whites back then during that time too. I mean, the marriage rate has just gotten worse over time because women are now free to leave our asses. It got nothing to do with being black or white. They can leave now. They can actually maintain themselves. So even for white people during that era, the marriage rate was better because the women didn't have a choice.
Yeah, but there's an obvious issue with the black divorce rate, like single mother homes. Like that's like an epidemic compared to just like a slowly growing problem amongst all other, demographics. Like, of course, I think that's just like the new age liberalism, progressivism. It's just provides the,
Okay, I see everybody is bringing up that you're not.
Yeah, they don't like it. It is what it is.
No, they're bringing up that you're not. They're bringing up that you're not Harry Schultz. That's what.
Harry. His name is Harry Sisson.
Okay.
First off, and it says parody. Yes, I'm not Harry Sisson. That kid is a little boy.
Okay. I meant to look that up. I still haven't found that. And I see James Phillips on YouTube agrees with you and says some blacks were free July 4th, 1776. Some blacks were free, which is why I asked you, Harry. I'm going to continue calling you that. Which is why I asked you, was the Jim Crow era free? Because there were some blacks back in the day. I don't know about July 4th, 1776, but even in the 1800s, there were some blacks that were free. But freedom was not free back then. Yeah, you're free, but you can't go to this neighborhood. You can't buy this. You can't open up a bank account here.
About,
that's not free.
Integration. Yeah, I don't know. There's other countries that I wouldn't be guaranteed.
Hey, but we're not talking about others. We're talking about here, though. On July 4th, we don't start talking about other countries. We're talking about here.
Is freedom the government telling other communities that they have to let you in your business? That's up for a debate. That's debatable.
I'm talking about in this country during the era we're discussing. A black man couldn't even go down certain highways. I mean, you hear about the Green Book as late as the 1950s and 60s. You can't even go down the highway in some areas. Certain neighborhoods you can't even drive down without being hounded and pulled over and harassed. Is that not lack of freedom?
Yeah, I do think a lot of that stuff is, overplayed. But,
what about the Rosa Parks thing? You think that actually happened?
I mean, she was a real person, but it was a law firm. They chalked it up it was a staged event. It wasn't one day she decided to go sit in the back of the bus and then it became this national news story. Now they had
but the idea
it was already in stage.
Right, but the idea that there was a law in place that prevented her from sitting in a place that a white person sat in, is that freedom? Where a white person can sit anywhere on the bus, but she cannot. Is she free?
Yeah, it's not something I would go out and fight for, but is it? I don't know. She still has access. I don't know. It's
she still.
I don't know. Access. That's you're splitting hairs at this point. It's she has to sit in this particular seat now, and it's I mean, is it really? I'm gonna say something. Just I don't know. I kind of see one. Is it really that big of a deal that you had to drink out of a separate fucking water fountain? Is it that big of a?
Have you seen? Have you seen the quality of those water fountains? Any area where they had for blacks and for whites? Look at the quality. I don't care if it's going into a club or a restaurant. Look at the door that says for blacks and look how that entrance looks. And look at how the for whites entrance looks. Everything you see that's for whites looks more posh and more well kept up than the for black stuff.
Yeah, well, I'm not even. It's like, who's providing? You could say that now, though. You go to the black areas, they're throwing their trash all over their place. There's littering. They're throwing their needles and stuff. I mean, you could say it could be a product of their behavior. Like, it's like, well, there's garbage everywhere and our stuff looks like shit. Well, could it be because you treat it like shit? And, like, and I'm not saying, maybe it wasn't. I wasn't there. But if I'm looking at today and I'm looking at these black areas.
Harry, there's pictures.
Like
Harry, you don't need to be there.
It's not because of Jim Crow.
You don't need to be there. There's pictures of this stuff. You don't need to actually be there. I'm here today,
and I can go to the black areas, and they still look like shit. So, like, maybe it wasn't the segregation that caused that.
Well, first of all, segregation is the reason you have black areas to begin with. The reason black neighborhoods are poor is because they literally put all those poor people together, made it so that they had a hell of a time getting out of poverty, and kept them in those neighborhoods. Black neighborhoods were formed for a reason. That is not an organic thing. It's just like with the immigrants going to Chicago and going to New York. That didn't happen because they just came here and all wanted to go to New York or Chicago. That was done deliberately. That's how most black neighborhoods formed. It was done intentionally.
Like rounded them all up with like a net or something, and they're like, you all live here now. Like,
no,
really?
No. If I have banks that won't lend to prospective black buyers that want to buy a house in any of these neighborhoods, I guarantee you, if I have a subdivision where no one will sell houses to blacks in that subdivision and no banks will make loans for anybody wanting to purchase a house, I guarantee that subdivision won't have anybody black in it. That's how they did it. They just prevented you from going in an area.
Like, black people were targeted by the government, like the CIA. They did like give them a bunch of guns and crack and stuff to like have I'm
talking about right on down to the local communities. I mean, if you purchased a home, part of your homeowners association, because that's where the housing associations, the HOAs, that's where they came from, is they were making promises that once you bought a house, part of your contract is you will never sell or rent this house to someone of African American descent. And that's what kept those subdivisions white. That's where the HOAs came from, is doing that.
Would I have an issue if the owner of a house was only going to sell it to black people or Asian people or Jewish people? There's Jewish communities like that only sell
in a contract?
Is that wrong?
In a contract?
I don't know if it's contractual.
It was contractual.
My issue, like, I don't know. My thing is like, should you go to jail if you don't integrate? I feel like that's kind of bullshit. It's like, I feel like people should have the choice. If you really have freedom, shouldn't you have the freedom to not self-integrate, or you go to jail or we shoot you? Like, come on.
If you are a majority and you're allowed to do what you just stated, the minority would have an impossible time climbing up the social status ladder because the majority is going to block them out from all of those areas, and they don't have enough.
Now the Asians are crushing, and there's other groups
because they're not facing Jim Crow laws.
What about the Jewish folk? They had like the whole Holocaust and everything, and they're like crushing and they own everything, and they own our government. So
think about what you just said. You said the Jewish had the whole Holocaust laws, and they're crushing it. They ain't crushing it in Germany, where those laws came from. They're not doing well in Germany. They got out of that country.
Yeah, no, Germany paid them $1 trillion. They just paid Holocaust victims out last week another $27 billion. They're still crushing.
They're not crushing it in the country that imposed those laws. They had to leave and go somewhere else to crush it. They're not crushing it in Germany.
They actually did crush it because they got their land. They got what they wanted. The Zionist leaders, and they got Israel. They got the Holy Land.
So the Jews that were in Germany during the Holocaust, they wanted to leave and go somewhere else in the Middle East. That's what they wanted.
They didn't want to leave, but they created a reason for them to leave. There was a guy with a mustache. The top leaders wanted to populate. You should look up the Havara Agreement.
Wait. You believe the Jews created the mustache guy? The one that murdered them all?
No, he was definitely backed by them, probably. Like, he was connected. Like, they used him as a leverage because 100%, if you look at the Havara agreements, they specifically worked with the banks to sell all of Jewish people's belongings and give them a free ticket to Israel because they needed to populate the area in the Middle East with Jewish people.
Do you even believe
the Jewish Germans didn't want to leave, so they had to create a reason for them to leave.
6 million people lost their life. Do you even believe that happened?
Well, that stuff is like overplayed. Like October 7th. Like,
I'm asking you, do you believe? I mean, it's a yes or no. Do you even believe that happened?
I don't know. I wasn't there, but do you believe 40 babies were unalive?
You weren't there at that either. You weren't there. As you just stated, you weren't there. So how do you know?
Well, they lied about October 7th. Like when October 7th happened, they said all this terrible stuff happened. But even today, the WikiLeaks proved that Joe Biden was lying about 40 burned babies and unaliving stuff.
Harry is so Harry.
So October
7th is on video.
Destruction.
What
was that?
October 7th is on video. What are you talking about?
What, you believe they like 40 beheaded babies and they burned them and they raped all these?
Listen. If you, I'm amazed that the app didn't ban you. You know what happens. I gotta move it on, man. Wow, we can talk anytime, but I'm trying to take you in small doses because I don't want you to get the whole show taken down. Yeah, you get.
But that stuff was all October 7th. They let it happen. You should look into that. That 100%. They short sold the market just like they did on 9/11.
Jesus.
The Jewish sellers on the market, they shorted the Israeli stocks, so they knew it was going to happen. It took 7 hours for the helicopter to respond when it only took 15 minutes.
All right. I got to move it on, Harry.
Today,
okay, I got to move it on. I don't listen. I'm all for free speech, 100%. And listen, that man is invited back on the program anytime, but I could just feel the ban coming, and he's not going to get banned. He's going to take the whole program down with that shit. But he's always invited back. Wow. Now that is a bastion of conspiracies right there. Wow. I believe in letting people speak, and as a result, sometimes I hear some very, very interesting conversation. I don't even know what to say with that. I don't even know where to go with that. I can't just disagree with it. I'll just leave it at that. Jesus. Looking in the comments, and I do see this says Whitaker, some Whitakiki on YouTube says he is right. He's right about all that, huh? Okay. Jesus. Please send your ID 10T form. James Phillips, I don't quite get what you're saying, but thank you for the super chat. And Jay Rich says you don't want to hear the truth. So you believe that the Jewish were behind October 7th to have an excuse to do what they're doing? They were behind the actions of Hitler because they wanted territory in Israel. Wow. I don't know where to go with that stuff. I don't even think most modern day Germans agree with that. Listen. Evidence. It's all I'll say the same thing about the election and all these other conspiracies. Show me some evidence and maybe we can have a conversation. Evidence. Now, my last caller was saying, well, look it up. Where the hell are you going to find that? PragerU? The Epoch Times? Show me where to go to find some shit like that. And I guarantee you, wherever you steer me to has a lot more wild shit. Maybe Alex Jones will tell me something like that. Show me where to go to research and find that information. Wow. Somebody says, give me your email. I'm scared after hearing that. You try to have the fans put on you, boy. Our founding fathers knew it would be hard to rely on good human nature. It's easy to say all are equal and have unalienable rights. Just a bit harder to live it. Now, in regards to your comment, Larry, it says our founding fathers knew it would be hard to rely on good human nature. No, that's bullshit. The Native Americans were a shining example of good human behavior when they let the colonists come in this country. They were really nice to them. I believe, Christopher Columbus? There's a story about in his diary, he talks about how with 50 more people, he states that he handed a sword as a gift of appreciation to some Native Americans, and they gave him food or something like that, or I don't know if it was buffalo hide or something, but they exchanged pleasantries when coming here. And he stated in his diary that the Native Americans were so ignorant. He didn't use the term ignorant. He used the language of the day, but it was something to the nature of they're so ignorant or so naive. He cut himself on a sword that I gave him as a gift. And with about 50 armed men, we could take this place over. That's in his diary from day one. They already had on their mind, we might be able to take this place. Now, as my last guest said, I'll invite you to look it up. Look it up. But he put in his diary from early on. These people don't even really know what is, they're not even suspecting somebody may be coming here with ill intentions. They're just very friendly and happy about us coming here. He stated that in his own diary, and obviously you see what happened. So the idea that our founding fathers knew it would be hard to rely on good human behavior, yeah, because our founding fathers were not acting as good humans themselves. So yeah, you're right. They may have found it hard to rely on good human behavior. As I always say, a thief don't trust nobody because a thief know what they're doing on the street. Americans don't trust a lot of folks because we know what we've done. We don't trust immigrants, Polish, Japanese, Jewish fleeing the Holocaust, Chinese, Italians, now it's Hispanics. We've never been friendly to immigrants because we know what we did when we came here. We didn't come here with good intentions. And as I always say, we were the worst immigrants to ever come to this land. So we're constantly suspicious that other guests may act like we did, even though many of them don't. Looking in the comment section, Irish is another. Somebody brought up Irish. So wild to still be hearing people talk about Trump and Putin. Putin knew better not to act under Trump. He knows we're weak now. That doesn't make sense to me, Anthony Cutin, because under Biden, the guy you're suggesting is a weak leader, how many soldiers has Putin lost? You think when Putin saw Biden as a weak leader and decided to invade the Ukraine, something he didn't do under Trump, remember, Biden's a weak leader, you think he thought they would still be at war 2.5 years later with very little to brag about? How much has Russia accomplished in the 2.5 years they've been fighting with Putin? I mean, with the Ukraine. If Biden's a weak leader and Putin waited for the weak leader like Biden to take office, you would assume that Putin would have thought 6 months, we'll have this over with. It's been February of 2022 is when that war broke out. So you're talking almost 2.5 years. Is there a lot of progress for Russia to look back on and say, well, we've already taken over half the countries? No, it's not. Under the weak leader. The weak leader being Joe Biden that you're pointing out, due to him back in the Ukraine, without having to send a single U.S. soldier, we got to assume Russia's lost thousands of soldiers. I mean, you've been fighting for 2.5 years and you haven't taken this place over. The only way to make that happen is by a lot of casualties. So if Biden is a weak leader, I don't see it. I mean, how many, in terms of not just dead Russian soldiers, blood and treasure, vehicles, aircraft, all of that, the morale in Russia, all of that's been affected by deciding to go into Ukraine under Biden, who was a weak leader. All of that's been affected. So I don't know if I would totally agree with you. Trump would have let Putin take the Ukraine without a fight. I do believe that because Trump favors Putin and thinks the Ukraine is weak. And Trump is constantly saying we need to get out of overseas conflicts. So weak leader or not, I would submit to you under Trump, that would be the time that Putin should make his move. I mean, Trump has already said, I don't want to have nothing to do with it. Trump wouldn't be sending Vladimir Zelensky. He wouldn't be sending them all them weapons and surveillance and equipment. They'd have been on their own. This shit would have been over with months, if not years ago. So Trump is the guy that Putin should want in office if he's going to continue with the Ukraine. I don't see any other way. Looking in the comments, he didn't under Trump as he couldn't predict what Trump would do, which is far more dangerous, not Biden being weak. Well, okay, let's say you believe that Biden's predictable and Trump is not. Okay, well, you believe that he predicted that Biden would help the Ukraine this long and this type of outcome. You believe Putin predicted this would happen? Because Biden is predictable? You think that if Putin knew he would still be dealing with the Ukraine 2.5 years later with as much blood and treasure as he's lost, you think he would still do it? You think this is what he predicted would happen? Going up against the Ukraine could be a 3-4 year conflict. I don't buy that. I don't buy that. Every U.S. president in the last 20 years has gave up land to Russia except Trump. Right now, Biden hasn't given up any land to Russia at all. Under Biden, they haven't gained a lot of land under Biden at all. They gained Crimea under Obama and Georgia under Bush. I get your point, but under Biden, they've gained nothing but a hell of a lot of people willing to fight to the death. So under Biden, the Ukraine has been a more formidable force under Biden than any other president. And that ain't got nothing to do with love or hate for Biden. You can just look at the numbers. Under Biden, the Ukraine has put up more of a fight and been more of a formidable foe than under anybody else. Because Russia hasn't accomplished anything right now with the Ukraine under Biden. They've got nothing but pushback and fight. And they're still getting it. I notice all creators that do debates are poorly educated. 100% says Jay Rich. So I'm assuming, Jay Rich, you are the educated one, which is why I believe in having uncensored free speech. Feel free to correct where I'm getting it wrong. Maybe I'm getting it wrong. I'll look it up, concede the point if necessary, but I don't think you're right. Otherwise, you would have stated it. What's all this talk, Tim? I'm not a European. I have enough bad shit with me. Don't put that on me. I don't quite get what you're talking about there. Trump admitted it at the debate. Like I said, you can look at what's going on. The Ukraine and Russia have been fighting for 2.5 years. We don't have any boots on the ground of any confirmation. Yet the Ukrainians, just with our weaponry, training, and surveillance, is putting up a hell of a fight. Putting up a hell of a fight under Biden. That doesn't come across as this was the best time to attack. Biden's weak. This is the best time to go. It doesn't look that way based on what's happening. It just doesn't. The unpredictable in Ukraine was their president. If he would have left, this would be over. I agree with that 100%, James Phillips. When the war broke out, the rumors were around that there was a hit on Zelensky. Several nations, I believe, I don't know if the United States was in on it, but several nations did offer Zelensky and his family a place of refuge, and he chose to stay and fight with his comrades. And the fight has been on. So, yeah, shout out to Zelensky by far. Zelensky is the shit. Shout out to him, but he did need help. And that help has come from none other than Joe Biden. Nobody else has stood up to help Zelensky more than Joe Biden, militarily at least. Poland is taking in a lot of the refugees, but Biden is responsible. And you don't have to agree with me or anybody in the damn program. Zelensky is on the world stage saying it. Zelensky is actually out there telling every damn body that thanks to Biden, this is what's happening. Fuck around and find out. Gen X, good afternoon. Welcome to the program, Gen X.
What is up, my brother from another mother? How you doing today?
And happy 4th, by the way. Good to have you on, man. The Box family work. We asking a couple questions. First of all, do you believe freedom is on the table come November?
Do I believe freedom's on the table?
Any rights? You feel like if you vote Biden in or if you vote Trump in, one of these guys stands to take away rights?
I'm not much of a conspiracy theorist, so I'm gonna lean on the no side. What I do think is that the progressives kind of want larger government, and I don't know that necessarily takes away from freedoms, because you mentioned earlier, man, we got a lot of shit we can do in this country, but I think that they do want to increase the size of government, but I think that ultimately it definitely negates some of what we consider to be our liberties or freedom, and that's debatable on both sides.
Well, let me just say this, because I know on the right side of the aisle, you guys generally believe that expansion of government equates to loss of freedoms. But I have to point out, being African American, which I know a lot of folks don't like hearing this shit, but it is what it is. From my side of the fence, big government tends to equate to more freedoms, because for people like me, states' rights generally means oppression is ahead. So if you shrink government down and let individual groups of people, maybe at the state level, maybe at the county level or whatever, make their own decisions as opposed to big government, I think you'd bring back segregation and a whole bunch of shit. I think at the federal level, it really saves minorities.
You see, and I would challenge that.
Sure.
I would challenge that. I would say that it's not a matter of big government, but a matter of good government. Government that actually takes care of its people.
Right.
And that's why I'm against big government. And I don't think it does any of us any good, man.
Well, let's go with what you said. Good government taking care of its people. Let's say we reduce things down to states levels or county levels or what. Let's take somebody like Marjorie Taylor Greene. What do you think her example would be of good government taking care of its people? Probably would be preventing people like me from even living in her neighborhood. For her constituents, that would be good government taking care of its people.
No, see, and I don't buy that either, and here's why. And this would be part of the reason, or a good part of the reason why I'm so against reparations. You touched on this earlier, as far as 1776, were blacks really free when the country was founded? You know what? There may have been a negating of what we consider freedom, but they were certainly present during the founding of this great nation.
Right. And they weren't free, Gen X.
No, that's not what I'm saying.
Oh, okay.
What I'm saying is they were present for the founding of this nation. Now let's go back hundreds of years before 1776, before the United States was founded. Slavery had been going on for hundreds of years. I mean, they brought them over from South America, from Africa, hundreds of years before the founding of our country. But since the founding of our country until now, we managed as a people to get it right. For the most part.
Wait. For the founding of this country, would you... Wait, hold on. I got to...
Abolition of Jim Crow laws. It took us a while. It took us hundreds of years, man. But we're finally getting it right. Now, had we not founded the United States on the premise it was founded on, who knows where it would be today?
I don't know. The reason why I say that is because it's not like we decided, we are a moral country. We need to make sure everybody's... these people had to fight and die to get this freedom. America was not intending to give women or African Americans or any of these groups, same-sex folks, we were not intending to do what was right. A lot of these folks had to die and lose their lives, go to jail. It was a fight, just like anywhere else on the planet. They had to fight to do that. America was not a noble country that was going to do what was right. They had to fight for it.
If America wasn't going to do what was right, it would have never been done. And it was done. Did people fight? You're absolutely right, man. Broke their backs, fought tooth and nail, had to open the eyes of people that didn't see the way they're supposed to see. But eventually we wisened up as a whole, as a collective, and went from some crazy freaking slavery bullshit to where we are today, man. I'd say we're basically free, all races.
Yeah, I like how we are in 2024, but the idea that black people were free in the 17 and 1800s to me is insane. That's what my other guest, Harry, was trying to say. I don't see any of that.
Oh, yeah, and the Jews wanted them to attack on October 7th. What kind of maniac does something like that?
He's MAGA. He's one of your brothers, man.
No, that's insanity.
I can tell you one thing, that ain't no liberal.
No, you can have them. We don't want them.
Well, when you got people roaming around on January 6th with shirts on that say Camp Auschwitz, I mean, I know you're not like that, Gen X, but that's your people, man. Nobody kicked that dude out of that. If I'd have walked around on January 6th with a Black Lives Matter t-shirt on or a picture of Colin Kaepernick taking a knee, they would have grabbed my ass and everybody would have been pointing and saying, you need to go. This guy's wearing the Camp Auschwitz t-shirt and nobody's challenging him at all. I mean, just roaming around free.
Well, to each their own. He's got a right. They got a right to express them.
Right.
I may not agree with everybody else's with what they choose to express, but I do respect and I do support it because that's what freedom is all about. Just because you say something that I hate doesn't make it hate speech. It makes it something that I don't personally like. You know what I'm saying? So that's and I see both sides.
This ain't just you're talking about literally wearing a T-shirt celebrating a building that was used to murder. I mean, what's next? You're okay with Epstein Island too?
Pictures of Alcatraz, pictures of Tupac carrying 2 smoking guns. It's a freedom of expression, man.
You're comparing Auschwitz to Tupac? Not even in the same universe.
No. The point I was making, it's an individual interpretation of freedom of expression. And is it wrong? Okay, I'll go ahead and jump off the limb and say, yeah, it's fucking wrong and very in bad taste. In bad taste doesn't make it illegal.
So then let me ask you, if you're running for president or running for political office, you know, Gen X 2024, and you see one of your supporters with a Camp Auschwitz T-shirt on, your mindset is going to be, hey, it's freedom of expression. I don't like it, but I'll let them roam around my campaign gathering wearing this.
I can't make them take it off.
You can make them leave.
Nah, you can't. That's not freedom. That's selective freedom.
Okay. So when
that would be like you going to an Obama rally with a Malcolm X shirt or a Black Panther shirt or some representation of a black militant group. You've got that right, man.
No. This. I hear your point, but no, that would be like me going to an Obama gathering, bragging about what happened with the Tulsa race riots, the what do you call it, Black Wall Street, and saying it was a good job. I mean, you're making fun of something that happened, that millions of people died. That ain't got nothing to do with Black Lives Matter. I mean, this is something awful, and they're roaming around a Trump gathering, literally celebrating the Holocaust. I mean, that is elevated to such a level. You would let somebody walk around with that at your gathering?
Is it in horribly bad taste? My opinion, absolutely.
Is it any chance that somebody else that might have been thinking of voting for Gen X and coming out to your gathering, is there any chance they would see somebody like that walking around and saying, I don't want to be around folks like that, and if Gen X is okay with that, I'm not voting for them?
You know, that's kind of a double-edged sword because you can't control how people think and express.
You can ask that person to leave.
I'm not wired like that.
Okay.
I'm not wired like that. I don't think that's the answer.
Okay. I would tell you it is. Even though you're talking about free speech and letting a person express themselves, I strongly believe if that person had taken off of that Camp Auschwitz shirt and put on a Black Lives Matter shirt, they would have suddenly started encountering all kinds of attention.
Oh, that'd be good, like wearing that Auschwitz shirts to a BLM meeting.
Right. So then it ain't about actually free speech. It's about what I agree with and what I don't agree with. And based on what we've seen, there's a lot of folks on January 6th that didn't have any problem celebrating Auschwitz.
Yeah, it's not the best representation of something good.
It's a bad representation
that I would endorse or support. But again, I'm not going to, thumb my nose at somebody else's because they believe different than I do. You know, we can have different perspectives. It doesn't matter. That's the beauty of being American. Just because your perspective is different from mine doesn't make you wrong, but it also doesn't make me wrong. It means we have a difference of opinion.
Gen X, come on now. Gen X. So if I sat down next to you with a NAMBLA t-shirt on, North American Man Boy Love, this is an actual group that celebrates abusing young boys. You'd be, that's just freedom of expression. You'd be okay with that.
Hold on, man. You just completely moved the goalpost.
No, I didn't. Dead people are dead people.
You're talking about pedophilia, and I'll tell you right now, if I run across somebody wearing a NAMBLA shirt, I'm going to pay the $1,500 bond. It's going to be all.
So you're okay? Wait a minute. So you're okay with the Auschwitz T-shirt, knowing damn well they were gassing children also, but pedophilia, where the child may actually live, now that's where you draw the line.
Yeah, I'm not down with the pedos.
So you can kill them, but don't fuck them.
Yeah, I'm not down with the pedos.
All right, Gen X. That's a different opinion. I don't know. In my opinion, an atrocity is an atrocity. Look. As far as I'm concerned, whatever NAMBLA is doing, it is no less awful than the Holocaust. I'm not going to sit next to somebody with a Camp Auschwitz t-shirt on, but kick the NAMBLA guy out the picture. I don't know where you got that from.
Before I say it.
Sure.
Okay, there was nothing even remotely good about the Holocaust and the murdering of millions of innocent people.
I didn't accuse you of saying that.
Okay, that being said, NAMBLA, the North America Man-Boy Love Association, are you fucking kidding? That is some twisted ass, man, look. And then you got the Antifa idiots like Moo protecting them at the marches. It's like, come on, man. And you wonder why we fight with those bozos.
You lose it. I just don't. You were so fairly held together about Auschwitz, and you want angry apeshit on NAMBLA. Even like I said, they're gassing children. Gen X, they were killing kids. But you see it on NAMBLA, but you're okay with the Auschwitz dude. I don't.
You said I was okay with the Auschwitz thing. I never said that.
You're outraged.
I said quite the opposite.
Well, let me correct it by saying it this way. As Pipe JP says in the comments, your selective outrage. You were not very outraged at all about even having somebody with a Camp Auschwitz t-shirt on at your own campaign rally. Well, it's free speech. All of a sudden, NAMBLA comes up and you're ready to pull out a gun. That's what I'm saying. The outrage was very different.
It's pew-pew.
Okay. All right. I got to move it on, Gen X. You always bring a smile to the face, even though we don't agree on shit. But I do appreciate you coming through, man.
All right, brother. I'm going to a feminist rally this afternoon. I'm going to get me some folded shirts and sandwiches.
And I know you are down for them being able to vote, right?
Yeah, they can vote. I don't think they should. That's just my opinion.
Why don't you think women should vote?
Because women reason based on feelings and emotions and not hardcore facts. Guys, we can shut that shit off. Women can't do it.
Women operate based on emotions and not facts. Did you see what happened on January 6th? That wasn't based on facts. Really? What are you talking about?
I think a woman is much better off making sandwiches than voting and fucking up our presidencies, man.
All right. Nothing but love for you, man. I'll catch you on the next one.
All right, brother. Happy 4th.
Thank you. Appreciate it. I might be on tomorrow, too, but thank you.
All right. I'll be here.
All right. All right. By the way, folks, you know what this is. Thank you for the 113,000 likes. It was a little bit difficult getting participation on the TikTok side. Nevertheless, my YouTube audience did not let me down. Thank you, folks. And I do agree with you, James Phillips, once again, has stated that if Zelensky was not the president in Ukraine, it would have been over with. Because the rest of it's anywhere, though. You take out the head of the snake, and the rest of the whole country falls apart. Zelensky stayed in there, presented a unified picture of strength, and his men rallied behind him, somewhat like Patton from World War II. So shout out to Zelensky. We'll see how that plays out. It is your boy Tim, the handsome liberal. I will see you tomorrow. Thank you, folks, on YouTube as well for the support. Nothing like that. Appreciate that. I will be on tomorrow. Oh, I can get it up. My voice is messed up. Interesting program. Certainly with the NAMBLA versus the Camp Auschwitz. You can't make it up. I'll see y'all tomorrow. If I'm hitting the right stuff. Thank you, folks, for